Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us this edition of Leak Project. I'm your host, Rex Bear, and tonight we have guest Marc Brinkerhoff. Now, Marc is a rare contactee because he's actually been making contact with extraterrestrials since the 70s and considers himself a conscious channel and walk-in. He is a self-aware aspect from a highly advanced dimensional universals. He is able to often call in interdimensional extraterrestrial craft to be witnessed and photographed. He is a featured contactee in the award-winning film by James Cameron, The Hidden Hand. Marc's presence in the film provides the benevolent aspect of human ET interaction. Marc is here as a reminder that we are not alone and never have been. His ongoing contact with ETs was documented in the late 70s when his amazing profile, UFO photography, attracted multiple UFO organizations. His ET contact and UFO photography continues to this day. As a matter of fact, August 10th, 2015, Marc physically met an extraterrestrial from the Ashtar Command. And this was in Central Park, folks, where he often goes to meditate and shoot photographs of flying saucers. The ET's name is Balthon, but did not reveal himself as an ET until a week later, though Marc suspected something was odd about this young man. Now, minutes after Balthon left, Marc was teleported onto one of the Ashtar Command's light ships and lost approximately 24 minutes as documented in his photographs that day. Now, if you'd like to know more about Marc, check out his awesome website at intergalacticmission.com. Marc, it's a pleasure to have you on the show with us here at the Leak Project. How the heck are you?
Oh, we're great, Rex. Thank you. Marc and Phyllis here. Phyllis, my wife.
Hi. Hi, Phyllis. Certainly nice to speak with both of you. I appreciate you both spending some time with us here. I know you're very busy. And one of the things I was hoping we could do before I start showing some of these amazing photographs that you've taken along the way, tell us just a little bit about yourself, a brief description about both of you guys, and kind of when you first started making contact and if it was actually physical or mental at first.
My real contacts have started ever since I was a young child. I was always going out of body, but at that time I didn't know what out of body was. I just thought that was a way we all travel as children. And my original first contact was at 5 years old in the fields upstate New York. And I was physically taken on. And these were my friends, let's say family. I thought they were taking me home. Well, anyway, because I always recalled where I came from before I came here and into the physical body. Because of being a walk-in, I came into the body when my mother was 8 months pregnant, and she was having a natural, I guess it's a miscarriage.
Yeah.
And the baby was going to be stillborn, so it was dead. And that's when I took the body over. After the soul left and told me the baby is going to be born dead, I'm leaving. I was asked by my angel friends if this is the one you want to try, and I went in. So I've never had a physical life on Earth before. This is my first time here. Although I visited the planet as a space person or a being from many, many millions of years ago, even when dinosaurs were here, Native Americans, the Hopi, a lot of people I've met remember me in my other form. And my other form, which is my true form, when I'm out of body, people have met me. And that's the form you see as primary contact. That's my true self, let's say, my higher overself. That's myself, Cerealist. So people when they're out of body with me will see me as Cerealist. And about 7, 8 feet tall, if we come in here onto the physical, lower etheric to astral levels of planet Earth and in space. So I could take people to the spaceships in different times, and some have remembered now. And Phyllis remembered the first time we met. And we met in 1978 after I came to New York to talk with Spielberg's people about the movie he was going to create about a young person, about 12 years old, meeting a benevolent ET. And he used all my information in the movie. And it wasn't until 1981 when ET the Extraterrestrial came out that they had used most of my information, including home and everything else, telepathy with the ET. So
but it didn't look like the ET.
It didn't look like the ones I met, which are human-like. But I asked the guys, is Mr. Spielberg going to use a humanoid like Klaatu from Dave the Earth Stood Still, and they said no, he's going to make his own ET up. So that was, they tape recorded me back then. So that's how I met Phyllis that day. I was in New York City. I was from upstate New York, and my crew friends, I'll say my ET crew friends, told me to make a phone call back to the people here in New York.
Tim Beckley.
Tim Beckley, who's still a good buddy today, to this day. Tim Beckley, known as Mr. UFO. He originally wrote many of those UFO magazines from the early 70s and 1980s. So that's how they told me to go call them back, call him and Harold back and say thank you. And they knew I was not going to call back. They knew I was going straight back home. But I made the call, and Harold answered the phone at the time, and he said, oh, we knew you weren't going to come back or call back, but we're so happy you did because there's a woman here waiting for 3 hours, hoping you'd come back, call up, or maybe visit, so she wanted to meet you. And all the hair on my arms and neck stood up, because I had had a vision of Phyllis back in 1976 in Florida in a car. And this day when I met Phyllis, it was the person that was sitting with me in the car, because I always knew this person I was going to meet was going to be my best friend, who I could share all this information with and not be made fun, because I was never able to tell the truth about everything with people I knew. So that day we met, we've been
Pretty much together
better, best friends, good friends ever since. And
married.
1978, we got married in 86, but we've been together since 78.
Oh, that's great.
And she remembers going out to the ship and seeing our friends and ETs. And
yeah, and I even met Belthon out of body a month or so after you met him physically.
Yeah, she met him out of body, and I was there.
What was that like?
Well, I was waking up from a lucid dream, and this incredibly beautiful being was reaching his hand out and to introduce himself to me. He said, "Hi." He said, "I'm Belthon, the extraterrestrial Marc that Marc met in the park." And when I woke up I got up out of bed. And I said, "Marc," I said, "Did you?" I said, "Where were we just now?" And then you said,
and I said, "We were on the ship in a lounge area on one of the astral ships." And we were with our crew friends and other people. And Balthon introduced himself to you, because I was standing about the equivalent of Earth diameter, let's say, 8-9 feet away from them, talking to my other friend. And he walked over to introduce himself to Phyllis. And when you're out of body on the ships, you're in a spacesuit usually, unless you're in casual clothes on Earth.
And all I can say is he was gorgeous, and his energy was incredibly beautiful, just like call him an ascended master supermodel.
Yeah, when I met him in the park, I knew something was up, but they were buffering my consciousness, let's say, to push things that I was thinking right now into the background to test me, to see how I would react. Meanwhile, intuitively, I knew something was there. He was not an Earth person. I just knew it. I was saying angel Earth person, because his skin was pure smooth, not a pore to be seen, not a pimple, not a blemish, not a wrinkle. And his eyes were larger than human eyes, and they were this incredible, nice, medium sky blue, very beautiful. And it was just a funny time. His suit he was wearing was and now this is August, and it was hot in the park. And I was getting ready to leave when this all happened. I had just done my meditations. And he comes along in a suit that's not an Earth-style suit. It was like smooth lapels and hidden pockets and all that. And it was a shiny, it was not too shiny, but it was a silvery, shimmery, gray-like suit. And he looked like, if you had a modern spacesuit, it was just funny. It just was funny, because I was studying the way he looked and the way he was wearing that. And he was perfectly formed and perfectly fit with the suit. That my mind was saying as he was walking towards me in the picture on the left, very slowly, I said to myself, gosh, he's like Klaatu from the Earth Stood Still, the original movie, where Michael Rennie was a very tall, slender man, but the suit he wore on the movie fit him perfectly. And this is what this guy looked like. He looked like he was measured perfectly for this. And I thought of an old commercial we used to hear on TV from the Men's Warehouse. You're going to like the way you look, I guarantee it. All that was coming is funny, you know, because I said, oh, this guy, it's like he came out of one of those movies, you know. And when he comes over and he just sits down exactly right next to me, my bag, I have a tote bag that had the camera and binoculars in it because in New York, you don't want to look obvious with these kind of equipment. So I carry a tote bag with a water bottle and my stuff in it. So you could see in the picture, the tote bag is like a green tote bag leaning against my leg, and I have my arm on it with the camera inside. He sits exactly next to me. No people do that in New York. And his leg is actually touching my green bag, his left leg. So I thought, normally people would go, oh my gosh, get out of my presence, right in my space. This man's energy was pure white and loving as he came towards me, because that's what made me sit there and smile as he was walking towards me. And then he sits down and he goes, mind if I interview you? And it was just kind of funny because we're typing it all up, but he reaches into his right lapel under his jacket and pulls out a silver cylinder about 3 inches in diameter. 3 inches long and about an inch in diameter. You got to see that as a small little object, like shiny chrome silver with no openings on it at all to be like a microphone, but a fine, thin wire coming out of the center at the bottom going under his right lapel. And I drew that on the picture to see a little line going there, but it was very fine, this line, very thin. And he scans me with it. He aims it towards me about 10 inches from me to interview me. Then he starts moving it around my neck, towards the top of my head, towards my solar plexus and tummy. He's moving it around me as I'm talking with him. I'm looking at that thing going, that's not a microphone. But as I kept saying things to myself, I believe him and the crew that was with him invisibly above in the ship were dampering or buffering my subconscious to where I would not want to speak what I was thinking. It was like pushing it aside as if it's not that important. It was the strangest feeling because your intuition is saying, oh, this isn't real. This guy is not, this is not a human. But your words aren't coming out to say that. He never once at all says who he is, where he's from, if he's some college kid doing some studies, nothing. He never says anything. He just let me talk. So at one point I said, I was talking about something like modern, because he said, do you mind if I interview you? And I said, about what? And he said, how about what's happening right now? And that's what he said it. So in my mind, I'm going, right now at this moment, sitting on a bench with this guy, right now in New York State, right now in the world, right now in politics. I don't know what he was trying to say right now, because I really thought he meant right now, but it made no sense, but it did in one way.
Right.
So he scanned me, and I started talking about, I guess, all the things that were happening in New York in August about politics quickly, because I hate politics and I don't like to be involved with it. But I just mentioned that because it was all the news.
We have one that's awake here.
And all he did is smile with his beautiful teeth, like the teeth you wish you had, and shook his head lightly up and down like yes. But he never said anything. So I didn't know if he was pretending to be agreeing with me or just going along. But as he did this, he'd look at me, and with his eyes, he'd look up to his right, to the sky, look directly at me again, and look back up to the sky as if trying to direct me to look up to the sky with his eyes. And when I did, there's nothing in the sky. In my mind, I'm saying, well, that's no big deal. The Ashtar guys and the crew, my friends and crew from the intergalactic mission and all the crew, they can be there invisibly like they can be. So physically not seen, but they're there. So I thought that, and then he looked at me and smiled. Now, normally I would pick up on all this stuff because I was saying this guy's not real. There's something here. And again, I was about to say, well, who is he? Don't forget to ask him his name, where he's from, who sent him. I was saying all these things to myself. And as I was saying them to myself, they buffered and went back into the back of my head as if it wasn't that big a deal. And that's how weird it was. So I said to him, I don't know what else to talk about. He says, well, it doesn't matter what you talk about as long as I keep you talking. Something like that. I've written it all down, but when he said that, again, my antenna goes up, because in spiritual matters and things, when they use your voice for talking and just your words alone, just talking on a phone or whatever, they're using the frequency. You're syncing in with your frequency and words, and it doesn't matter what you're saying as long as you're talking or saying something. And when I work with people for giving readings, let's say, or whatever we do in the past, and I will use their voice to sync in with the frequency. So when he said that, again, my antenna went up that this is something not human, but then again, it buffered me. So at one point he says I suspected in Vide he was going to be leaving soon, because these people, when they come in like this, they don't stay long. If they're not near their ships, or if they're not carrying certain things on their body or spacesuits to hold them here, if they're etheric levels. So they can walk physically for a while, but then they leave. And this has been my experience with all the ETs when I've met them in fields. If the ship is nearby, they can stay longer in the field of the energy of the ship. So he gets up to leave, thanked me. I mean, it goes on. I think I even wrote down in the website what he said, but he thanked me. And he says at one point, he says, well, I said, I hope I helped you with what you needed. I didn't know what it was. He says, yes, actually, you did. And that's what I get for trying to be a journalist. And so I said, that's weird. And he smiled. He kind of like made a laugh, like, that's what I get for trying to be a journalist. And I said, well, I thought you did pretty good, even though he didn't ask me any questions. He just wanted me to talk. And then he says to me, well, I have a totally different job. When he said that, he smiled and he made a little kind of, I have a totally different job. Telepathically, I said, yeah, space pilot, right? In my head, I said those things to myself. But I reached up to him, and he had big hands, big kid. He looked like he was 28 if you put Earth years on him, but I know they're older than they look. And I said, thank you, and God bless you on your path. Have a good day. And he reached down and he says, God bless you. And he gently took my hand, and he gently went up and down twice, very, very softly. Now, a big guy like that, you think the men of Earth would take your hand and hold it and shake it. This guy didn't do that at all. In fact, the way they handshake in space is quite different than Earth. But he was being kind to do that for me. Then he turns and leaves, and he walks in the slowest motion ever. And that's when I was going to take his picture. He got about 5 or 6 feet from me, and I thought, I'm going to take his picture. And that's when I telepathically heard, don't intrude on his energy. So I didn't, and I followed him. And when he dematerialized, going around a corner towards Central Park West and 85th Street, I was about to call my wife, when then again I was buffered to go over to the tree. And you see the tree in the next picture below. It's not a tree, but it's a little shaggy bush. And there's a tree branch that's behind me, actually. There's a tree there. So at that time, they told me go over to that part and finish asking, prayer like I do. I send out words in prayer. And I had the words on my site. Some of the words I use. Not all of the words, but some of them. And I said to them telepathically and out loud a little bit. Nobody's around at the time. There were people picnicking behind me. If you look past me in the background, there would have been people back there. So I said, I'm going to have to leave. It's too hot for me right now. So if you're planning to come, you got to come pretty soon, or else I'm going to have to be leaving. And I had the green bag there, and I heard, look up to your right, telepathically. So I looked up, and that was a little cloud. And out of the cloud came a silver, shiny, sparkling spaceship that looked like I say this Star of Bethlehem, because it looked like a cross star. It was just shimmering with light so bright that there's nothing I've seen this bright. And I can't believe nobody saw this. But it was brighter than Jupiter at night 5 times or more.
We never really capture what it actually looks like.
And my picture does not show it exactly.
Yeah.
I'm looking at a star sparkling in silver and shimmering, and I could see the ship and everything with my binoculars. And I said, I'm going to take a picture. So I took a picture, one picture, the first one, at 1:18 p.m. in the afternoon. And then I took the binoculars to look at the close-up. And I saw it. a ship, but it was, again, I saw the shimmering bright shape of a star formation, sparkling and shimmering with form like that. And I was happy, so I just started taking pictures. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the binoculars and I'm saying, this is so beautiful, and I'm looking for detail. And then the silence engulfs me of energy, silence, which is how they used this before for me. And all the sounds of the park, New York City street, you can hear traffic going by because it's right near Central Park West, dogs bark, people talk, children on swing sets that squeak. All this sound stopped, including the birds. And it's a buffering silence of love. And I said to myself, oh, there's the silence. I remember that before. And then I look again at the binoculars. And I hear, better not look too long. Too much time will go between photographs. So I thought, yeah, that's interesting. So I put the binoculars down, grabbed the bag, and took the camera out of the bag. Started taking pictures again. But now when I see the spaceship over the tree, there was a cloud near it, which you can see in the second picture. There's a cloud which wasn't there at all in the sky before. And they morphed the shape. Remember, I'm seeing a sparkling star, but the camera picks up what they decide to put on with their energy fields. And you can see the time.
I just realized that that's the wrong number right there. That's supposed to be 5067, not 57.
Oh, we can fix that. Okay, it's 5067, not 5057 by accident. And 5068 is 142.46.
I have it right on the bottom, but I made a mistake on the top.
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay, no big deal.
No big deal. It's going to be fixed.
I just noticed it.
We get lost in translation here.
Okay, keep going.
But you can see there was the 24 minutes missing from frame 1 to frame 2. But when I take pictures, I take them in seconds. I keep snapping the camera. So now you can see on the next picture, 6:09, 48 seconds instead of 46, and then 55 seconds, 59 seconds, a minute and 43, and then a minute and 43 and 7 seconds. I just keep taking pictures, and then the UFO starts to move to my left, and I took pictures until it went into another little poofy cloud, a very little tiny cloud of whispering, wispy looking, and I waited for it to come out the extra little space that was there. It would have been half an inch in the sky, would go in, and it never came out. So I told them, I said, well, that figures you came in your cloud and you leave in a cloud. That's what they do. A lot of times they'll do that. And then they told me, when I get home, tell Phyllis to download these as soon as she can. They're very important. But when I get home, see, for me in the field, the park, I felt like 45 minutes at the most I was up there, because I was definitely not there for an hour. It was too hot. When I got home to our doorman area, we have a camera, a clock in the lobby. It looked different to me, the clock. And I thought, something's wrong with the clock. Then I get upstairs to our place here, and I come in, the clocks are all 2:25. Going, how can this be 2:25? I wasn't up there that long. What happened? So I didn't think about it. I just thought, okay, I must have been what? Because I meditate and do things in words and prayer. And I thought, well, maybe time went faster than I thought, because I don't wear watches. So what happens next is Phyllis doesn't download the camera that night because she came home late from work after 8:30 and got late. And then she looked at the pictures, and we didn't think they were as big on the camera. You can't see them as clear. But it ends up a week later, she was able to download them on a Friday. And that's when I was sitting on the sofa, and she said to me, Mark, why would you take a picture of on the spaceship and then wait 24 minutes to take another one? I said, well, I never do that. She goes, you did here. You got to see the time. I said, nah, come on, 24 seconds. I had to put the binoculars down, pick the camera back up. She goes, no, it's minutes. And then I remembered they engulfed me in silence, and that's how they've done that before. So when I looked at the pictures and saw the actual timing, it white flashed my brain. They white flashed me because they were saying, we told you to download these sooner. And they were important. And so what they were saying to me, it was like they hold a little joke for me like that. They do things like that. Is that because Phyllis couldn't be with me that day, and she was working, they wanted her to discover this because she's the one who downloads. She's the camera person. She's the computer genius with all this. And she makes all the pictures, so she sees the real timing and puts them on the film, on the website. And so they wanted her to get excited and see the time too, which I didn't notice, of course, because I'm not looking at the camera film and where the pictures like that. So I said to Phyllis, though, well, that made sense that the clocks were out of whack when I came home. They were like 20 some odd minutes after 2, when I thought it wasn't even 1 o'clock yet.
And then you.
Or I mean, not 1 o'clock. I didn't think it was 2 o'clock. I thought it was like quarter to, maybe 20 to 2 at the most, or quarter to
And
2.
then they allowed you to see from the ship, the perspective of the ship.
I had to sit on the couch, and I had a complete reopened flash of everything that went on. And I experienced it suddenly as if it was yesterday, knowing everything that happened to me. And what they did is they teleported me in the silence, because they said, remember the silence? That's what,
Right.
So what they do, and of course they know how to manipulate frequency with time. They can do that on these high levels. These beings are on dimensions not close to Earth at all, but they can come in with the etheric ship, teleport us onto it, and they acclimate us to the frequency, and then we now teleport. They can go to the next frequencies if they need to. So when they told me, I was on the ship and I'm looking at things from way up high. I saw the park from the sky, and where I had been standing by the bush tree, that big tree, and out of the windows I was looking out of, which are panoramic giant things, and these people are 8 feet tall and bigger, and 7 to 8 feet tall, and some taller. They kneeled down on one knee to come over and hug me, and even Ashtar was there, and Sananda. So these are people I've known in times before here, of course, but they're friends. And so Ashtar gave me a hug, and because I had a lot of people asking me questions over the years, saying, "Is he a real person, or is he just like a being only in the space realms higher up, or is he real?" And he told me to tell people he's real, meaning they're etheric, but they can materialize and be here on the planet just like Baltham was. So we would hold their hand and feel them. They are people, and they just are on a different frequency. So they could be standing near us, and we just can't see them. And these are Etherians. In fact, the Etherians are the ones who came to Eisenhower and gave him a ride on the ship. So in the early 50s. So this is the thing about the space beings. He said, "Tell them I'm real." That was Ashtar. My own friends and space crew were there. These other people in this picture is showing that's my friend Laranos and Centarius in the middle, and that's my overpart Ceralis in the chair. When I'm out of body, I'm in an aspect of my form, the higher self form, and I can meet with my overpart, which is what I try to teach people to do in our teachings that we do here. And we've had success with people meeting their overselves or higher selves as well, and being on the ships to remember. This is what I came to help with, and was helped to awaken up the galactic souls on planet Earth, which are all universals. But you see, everybody's an aspect of their overself on different places. You might have an aspect of yourself as a female or an androgynous being, like these people are most of the time, and you might be in another galaxy, another dimension, yet you're still here as Rex on planet Earth at this time. And you can be out of body, astrally traveling, or soul travel as we call it, and you can meet up with these other aspects, but you can meet them on these ships when they are allowed to arrange that. But your over self, or the total self as they call them, high realms, which are above the 22nd frequencies of light, above 12 dimensional spaces and all, you can know the knowledge of the over part. So then you learn why you're here, what you came to do, etc., in different places. So I came with a mission, and everybody has a mission on planets. You all came in for something. You all came in to do something, whether it was to help your family and friends or learn certain things on the planet, and recall it and bring it home with you when you leave. When we physically die on these physical densities, you retain the knowledge you gained here. And it contributes to the knowledge you're over.
Explain that shot of Yeshua.
This is Yehoshua, known as Jesus on planet Earth, but this is how I've met him. And I know him on the other side out of body. So when he's working around the Earth realms, which are the 1st through 7th realms on frequencies around Earth, and within the frequencies of the 7 planes, you might see him looking like the way people expect, the long hair and a beard. Not always does he have a beard, but he does have these incredible blue eyes. And when on the higher realms, on the frequencies above 7th and 8th and 9th and 10th. He appears mostly as Sananda, who I've always known him as, and that's in the other picture of the extraterrestrials here on the left. It's Sananda. And they're all androgynous people. They can be any sex they appear to be at any time on those higher dimensions. And most will choose to be in a form that fits their energy or how they feel. But they're all acknowledged of their masculine and feminine sides. And some, there's androgynous, there's all different types. So if you feel like today focusing as a male, you can. If you feel like you're someplace else and you feel like focusing as female or androgynous, you can. And no ET out there cares about that because they all understand it. They all understand. Everybody is telepathically connected. So they can't hide things from these beings, and they're all love. And I've always asked them in the past, they said, people want to say disclosure, etc., right? They're waiting for disclosure. The thing is, disclosure is happening all the time to the people who they come to. These beings and our friends and families will access and come to their own. They always said we go to those we know, those who work with us or know us, or we know from past times and other places, because only on Earth we think of past lives and things. So, these dimensions, these physical densities. And in space, we jokingly, not being bad in jokes, but Earth is known as a cosmic boot camp, a place where you can get physical density, heavy dense level, and test yourself. So most times people try to set up memories to come to them. Maybe when they go to another country, they might have a flash of something that they would not know of normally. It only has to do with that country. And they would say, how would I know this? I'd never been here before. But in a past life, they might have lived there. And then they might know all the street names or know where things are located, even though they've never visited there before. And this has happened to people.
But what we seem to be, what Marc seems to be mostly oriented to,
I like that you're on Astron.
Is what we say is our galactic souls that are waking up and saying, wait a minute, I'm very interested in the idea of the universe and space. And these are people that really have higher parts that are out there on these other dimensions. I mean, you could live on the 7th dimension of Earth, around Earth, and be perfectly happy in the most magnificent heaven, that you could possibly imagine. But that wouldn't really be enough for souls like us that are galactic and need an entire universe to traverse.
I've met enough people on planet Earth now that in all these years, I've been giving lectures since the 70s, and a lot of people are afraid of space travel, and some people are afraid of leaving the planet. And I tell them it's okay. There's people out in space in different planet systems that are like here. They love the planet, working in dirt, and they love physical stuff. It's fine. But they also have space access if they want it. So if they want to go on a trip, they can go to another planet, like people take a cruise ship here on Earth. So there are people that love the planets and want to be on. That's good. This is what we need. But then on the different realms, different frequency realms, let's say above 5th and 6th, 7th, and 8th and 9th and 10th, you're going to come to more galactic universal information. And they will train you and teach you things and about different the way spaceships work. Some of them, they're all telepathic, most of the ships, but they connect with the soul and the person who's going to run a ship, let's say, that day. I can teach on all this information because I've experienced it with people and myself. So it's fun that you're on Astron because he is the person I've known forever. He's like my big brother. He's in charge of a lot of things, the Astron Galactic Command. And you've heard of Ashtar. This being is real. He operates a command around this galaxy here, or mostly our solar systems, or closer solar systems around the Earth. And they work as a protection force and work with people, and also teaching people on the other side when they come out of body on the ships that are around the planet Earth. There's and three they work huge with each ones. Other. But all the alliance groups, all these groups work with each other. The intergalactic mission is an actual mission in space, utilized with the Christ group, and we all work together. So many of the people involved with the Christ group are part of the intergalactic mission, which is universal and omniversal, and that means many universes, which we've been to, different universes. There's millions. So you can't even, there's millions and billions of galaxies, and there's many universes, so we can't get into all that. But Astron was the voice that was on the British televisions in 1977 on November 25th. And I went to England in 78 to find people who had heard the voice or had some information on that, because people were saying it was Ashtar, but it wasn't. And the reason is because Astron, who is my biggest brother in space, my friend and family, came to me a week before and told me they were going to do a test to try something, but it won't happen for about a week. But I'm just letting you know. And I was heading to a UFO group of people at the time in Yorktown Heights, New York. And they said, he said, so take my name, write it down, and when you get to where you're going, give them the name and tell them to write it down, and then to wait for the information, what will happen. It'll be a surprise, but we're testing us to be sure if we can do this. That's all it was about. So a week goes by, and my friend calls me up and says, did you see today's newspapers? And I didn't. And she told me what page to go to. And there it said, this is the voice of Astron. I'm an intergalactic command leader or whatever, but he said, I'm with the intergalactic, an authorized representative of the intergalactic mission. And I clipped out every news article I could find from every newspaper it was in. And they all said the same thing. They all said the same name. So I went to England. I met with a man that was a journalist at the time working with some newspapers. He actually was able to make and put together a transcript because there was no real tape recordings of this, what occurred off of a TV set in those days, in the 70s. Nobody had tape recorders or, videotapes. So this interrupted news stations or something. And different people experienced different parts, and some parts got more information than others in their broadcast because there was static. So when I asked him, I didn't say anything. I said, did you hear the name that was said? He said, yes, it was Astron. I said, oh, so it's not an Ashtar or an Ashtron or any name like that. And he says, oh, no, it was Astron. We heard it. So now what's happening on email, Facebook, or not Facebook, YouTube, is there's a lot of misinformation put out about this experience with this talk of what they put over the televisions.
But you didn't finish. So when they when all the people from the UFO group saw what had happened, they blew their minds and said, if you hadn't told us, we would have thought it was a hoax.
Yeah. They all said the same thing. They said, if you didn't tell us to write this name down, we wouldn't have believed that this was probably a hoax. Well, the thing is, it wasn't a hoax. But to this day, they still don't know how they did it. They can tell you that.
I saw that footage, actually. I just wanted to jump in real quick because I saw the footage on YouTube. Somebody had recorded it from back then and just played it back. And I thought, man, that's a pretty elaborate hoax, or this is legit. One of the two, but it was fascinating.
No, that wasn't real. That wasn't how it worked. That was somebody making that up.
Okay.
Yeah, they tried to recreate something. Because I asked the man, I can't say his name really, I guess, but I asked him, I said, well, did you watch this? Did you see it? He said he saw it. I said, did they make any, is there a way there's a copy of this or something? And they said, no, they didn't get copies. It was like transcript. They were writing down, and whatever came on their TV. It wasn't like today with the TVs in England. At that time, there was only 2 channels in England. When I was there, I was like, 2 channels? That's it? So, but I do have friends that had heard it who were in England, or heard some of it, because not everyone was watching it at the same time. I turned it on. So the one that we see on the YouTubes, they always have this British accent, and I'm like, what, are they kidding me? What's going on? Really what came out,
hello, chap.
It was a metallic voice, like a sound like your voice had been, like how they have today. They can take a voice over a telephone and change it into different sounds. Modulating it. The voice wasn't like a British guy going, hello. It was like a robotic sounding, robot-y, tinny voice, strange voice. But the sounds were there. And the reason Astron told me, he said, well, we transferred from one level, let's say 10th dimensional, down to fourth levels and dimensional space in the etheric realm, where Ashtar and their crews were, being a rebound buffer for it. And so it ends up coming out through our TV set. It wasn't a real human-like voice anymore. It became more metallic-y.
More robotic.
Yeah, a little metallic sound. So when I see these YouTubes, I kind of laugh because some of them put a gray face in there, a gray alien or some being. They're all making it up. And but this is Astron. He's about 9 feet tall plus, depending on what level of energy we're on. He's up to 12 feet and beyond. So these guys can get to 20 feet tall and 30 feet tall on certain high energy frequency levels. But when you're there, you're also resonating at that resonance of height. So you might be 20 feet if they're 30, or 25 if they're 29 feet. And I know it's hard for people to understand this, but we've had a lot of people experience these, my friends, I guess you want to say our friends and crews, where they went onto the beaches on these other high-level spaceships. We have on these Arcavanas that are bigger than Jupiter. You got to think of a spaceship that's way bigger than a planet on Earth, or any planets out there, and they can build onto them. And these are on high dimensions from 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, and on a little more from there. And I want people to understand, when you're in these out-of-body type forms, if you're out of body from a physical planet, when you get onto those dimensions, you're as physical there, but more physical than on planet Earth. You could touch, you could feel everything. You don't need to eat on those levels. There's none of that. It's light. They absorb the energy of frequency from Creator's energy and light. So there's no food or that stuff. But you can create things with a thought form energy where you can actually taste stuff or have a drink of something. So it's just not food like we think of food and eating and digesting. There's none of that. It's none of that at all. You could taste it. If I thought of something like a juice from another planet and I gave it to you in a glass and said this was something from this planet system, it reminds you of coconuts and oranges on planet Earth, but you got to taste it, and its name is whatever, right? We create a name. And then you drink it, and it's like a thick juice, let's say, a thick nectar. And you'll taste all these different tastes and flavors. And the reason is because of the thought form frequency that these people put into the energy of the creation is exact from what your memory is from the time you physically experience it or experience it on etheric levels. So you can create things when you're up there someday on the other levels, and you could say, I was on planet Earth in 2007, and I tried a cocktail of tomato juice and blended juices, and this is what it tastes like. It was really cool. And this alien might be there saying, I've never been to that planet, and you say, here's what it tastes like. Just taste it. And they will sip it or drink it or touch it, whatever they want to do, which they can taste through their finger if they need to. And they will taste what you programmed it to taste like, and they will know the flavor that you had. And this is how they experience too on different levels. When others haven't gone to certain dimensional spaces, they can experience through the thought forms and the creation of the other person who was. So people on Earth right now listening, everywhere on planet Earth, right now you are very special, and we chose to come in at this time. Is very important. And when our time is finished on planet Earth, when our time is up, and we go back to the levels we come from and where we resonate with home, I call it home levels, you will be able to describe what happened to you to your friends and those who couldn't make it to the planet physicals like this, the physical densities. And we become the witnesses for this planet and for the souls who experienced here. And you'll find you will be defending this planet because it's one of the most beautiful planets in the galaxy, and it's in many galaxies. There's other planets similar to this Earth, but this one has a lot happening on it. You know, it's got they call it boot camp, but it also, like Yeshua said, or Yehoshua, he said, you can make your own heaven or hell here. It is how you focus and think. If you want to dwell on the negative, you will create negative coming towards you. If you want to focus on only love and light and helping and benevolence towards all souls, you will bring benevolence to you. And that's what he meant about creating a heaven on earth. Or when he also spoke about creating your heaven, which means when you leave here, by your actions, thoughts, and words, you will be drawn to the frequencies that resonate with that, or in your soul vibration, your aura, and then your spirit and soul. So you see how you'll be drawn, we'll all be drawn to the spots in the heaven realms, as we call them, the heavenly realms, which are from The frequency we're on right now when you're standing or sitting, everybody, this is not a third dimensional plane. I know people want to say 3D, but I want you to know on these dimensional spaces, when you go, they're 3D. We are talking about first plane. We are on the first plane, which is the densest level. And then the second plane is the spirit plane when you leave your body or a person dies, and they go to that plane. That's the second level frequencies. And there's many frequencies within those frequencies, so you can have lower density, lower frequency, which could be scary. People might say, oh, it's like purgatory. Or there's a hell vibration, which is actually a little below our physical density here as first plane, is a little bit lower, which people could probably call the hell realm if they want, because anything they think and fear is there. And if they lived a life where they murdered people, they might fear going to the other side or being that they'll be condemned. But they push themselves to that frequency through their fear. And when they call out to Creator or to guardian angels or to their St. Michael angels, all these angels, and Yeshua and Blessed Mother Mary, Universal Mary, you will come out and be saved, because all they've always said to me is the person just has to call to them and they will come to help. But most people are afraid or don't believe, or are afraid to even call because they're embarrassed for the pain or things they might have caused others. So they go through a semi-suffering. And I want people to also understand something. I've had a near-death experience when I was 7 years old. I was drowned, so I'm onto the other side anyway. But I'm always working on the other side, helping souls get past certain frequencies and densities where they are frightened or don't have a belief system. I help them to the other side. And there's a lot of souls that do that here, that help others to get to the other side from their death realm. And there's a heat that occurs in some form when people get to what we call a waiting area, or Christians might call purgatory areas. Those are areas where souls wait because they're not ready to move on yet, because maybe they had a lot of drugs in their system or alcoholism or things like that. So the energy has to cleanse from their body energy, physical, as well as the auric energy field of their soul. So if they passed on in a drunk state or a drug state, it takes roughly 3 days, Earth days, to acclimate that energy to the other side for the soul, depending on their spiritual wisdom as well. Those who are spiritually connected and what they've studied will get further faster, because they will understand I can just focus to Creator, focus to Yehoshua, known as Jesus, or ask for help from my guardian angels and they guide me. But if people don't believe in their life after death, they get stuck a little bit. So everybody listening, in that purgatory space, or that lower space, it's like not lower evil, it's just a waiting zone. Like people from 9/11 went to that zone because they died in shock, fear, and fear, and then they get acclimated. Sometimes, depending on how we were, if we have a lot of toxins and poisons in our body, as well as our thoughts, which is like a lot of negative thoughts, we're going to feel an energy cleanse go through our whole body, from the soles of our feet straight out, right up and through our heads, actually. It just goes right into your whole aura on that dimensional space. And that, to some people, might feel like a fire. So they might be scared for a moment and think they're being burned. But it's not that hot, it's just the heat, and it comes up really quick and cleanses the energy fields of the soul's body form on the outsides. So this acclimates them faster to that level. It's a cleansing effect. And I know people might be afraid of that, but it's not to be afraid of. It's like almost like putting your hands under hot water, as hot as you can take it. And that's it.
You want to talk to him about that picture?
Sure.
This was his latest image, which we thought was spectacular.
Oh yeah, this is mind-boggling. I'm looking at this and I'm thinking of this, Egyptian gold spaceship straight up from Thoth himself. I mean, this is awesome.
Did you see though on one of
like the Yod?
If you track down, you can they actually put a cross on the edge of. You see it?
Oh, here.
Down a little bit. Go down a little.
5592 has a cross on the edge of the craft. That's the Christ group pushing that symbol, and there's a couple other crosses in different spots. But
that's very.
I got to ask a question if I can.
Materialized. Yeah.
Real quick, because it came to my mind. Christ in the Bible, Jesus in the Abrahamic texts anyways, I mean, he's Middle Eastern, right?
Well, you want to say his mother, his mother's mother was from Europe, but the father's father was from the Jerusalem areas and all that. So he had blue eyes because Mary had blue eyes too at the time, and she had a more fair skin, where that was her mother Anne as well. So the father was more, I guess.
There was. You mean her father?
Mary's father.
Oh.
Joachim, I guess, and he was from the areas of the Jerusalem and all that. I guess that's how that works in ancient history. But that Jesus did have the tan look skin, but he had also this European features as well. He had high cheekbones, so he does resemble at that time the Shroud of Turin look. They do have that picture, even though he's punched and beaten. But
Okay.
he really does. He did look like the way I paint him, because I went back in different places. I've seen him, and they put me in different. I don't know what you call this. People might call it an ecstatic vision. I would say it's 3D reality. When I went there, I was standing with Mary, near Mary actually, when the Annunciation happened. So I saw it from 3 different perspectives: from behind the angel, behind her, and not also standing by the side of a wall. When I was sitting with Phyllis on a bed, it was just sitting. We were saying prayers, and for me, it was like 20 minutes or something, listening to them speak in Aramaic, an ancient language I don't even understand, but telepathically I understood all that was being said in English to me. So I could see it from 3 different perspectives in color. I smelled the food cooking on a stove, heard dogs barking in the background, people walking or talking, cart sounds, birds chirping, like chickens talk. I don't know, it's just all the sounds, yet I could smell everything. And I realized I was placed in a Akashic frequency while I was sitting there, but I left my body. I was not in my body on the bed. I was over there witnessing the Annunciation firsthand, so I could be able to explain how it happened. Saw the interior of the house at the time. That was her mother's house, and I had no idea what it looked like. I just was remembering how it all looked. And when I came back, I said to Phyllis, I was crying. I had tears rolling down my face. I was sitting, I said, Phyllis, how long was I missing? How long was I gone? And she says, you weren't gone where? We were just finishing 1 decade of a rosary, when the next thing, I was taking a couple of breaths. She said it was like waiting to say what we're going to dedicate the next one. So seconds went by for her, I guess, not even maybe a minute. But for me, it was like I was gone for 20 minutes or more. I was experiencing a whole different place. I was like there teleported. That's how it felt. And when I came back to wake up in my body, like sitting there opening my eyes, I realized I was coming out of it, and I was like, what the heck just happened?
But the key, the important part is that it is actually really happened. That you should tell them how that happened. How the event is real. It's not. No,
she was definitely, a light came into her and came to her tummy, and it was about I don't know, months later when I saw some videos that were set for sale. One was called The House in Loretto, so I thought I'll look it up. Ended up, we bought it online. It was like a magazine thing, you could buy it. So I bought The House of Loretto. It was by these people at the time. Bob and Penny Lord would take people on trips around the world to religious places. So I thought, let's get this House of Loretto. It said it was the house that Mary was brought up in. As soon as we put the video on, it was exactly the house I saw from the inside. It was perfect. It was the house. So I was like, oh my gosh. I was in that house, and she had a little stool she was sitting on, hemming some clothing, and food was cooking on a little stove effect in the corner. And when you see the house, and it was a cabinet with glass on top where they would put dishes. All this was there in that house, like Roman glass type of cabinet on just the front doors.
When the angel appeared to her.
And the angel was over 9 feet tall, Gabriel, and everything he said was what we all hear, like you're blessed among women and a creator, and Yahweh wants and chose you to be the vessel. And she wasn't that young, but she wasn't that old. And she said, be it according to your word, be done. She acknowledged it. And at that moment, she was, the Holy Spirit went into her. A bright light came from a window to the angel, who then, with his hands, directed her right at Mary. She swooned so far backward, I didn't think anybody could do that on her knees, but she did. And I was behind her when she did that, and she was amazing. So I speak of this, but people want me to paint pictures and all that. I relive it to this day. It's that much. I've seen Jesus on the cross, and I've seen many things happen. So, and I've met Mary on the spaceships. She's out there. She's our universal mother, let's say, known also Mary Miriam. And
you just
and
posted
Sananda.
a portrait of Mary.
I put a portrait, on our
his
Facebook.
Facebook page for Mother's Day.
Yeah.
Oh,
Now
very
these
cool.
pictures are taken right outside our window in the living room here. I was sitting doing some work, and I heard, "Come to the window now." That was October 12th. I go to the window. It's about, I think I even put the time in. It was right close to 5 o'clock, I guess. It was still daylight out here. And a beautiful, sparkling, pink-toned, golden thing, spaceship was sitting up, just hovering up there. And you can't even say this. I had the binoculars. I'm looking at him saying, what the heck? How do I even describe the shape? It was as if it was made of like a strange material, then a bump, and then it just kept sparkling with light. And then it would make lights on the front, like the flashing lights. It was just bizarre. So it hovered, it moved a tinge, and I just kept taking as many pictures as I could and trying to keep it focused. And then it just moved a little bit and just shut off, was gone. That was it. So it was only there for a little while. If we look at the time, it might have been only about, not even, I don't know, 5 minutes and less.
23, 26, 27. So
51, 52.
I mean, some of those are gorgeous.
I just take as many pictures as I can, and you see how they change shape and they morph, or they put other things here, like 3 objects. So I'm like, what the heck? Because when I had it on focus, it was just this strange-looking shaped little object sitting there. But they change all these shapes and create all these, we call pictograms, in those seconds.
Do you think that it has an effect on the subconscious mind, like it's some type of language per se, maybe?
Yes, it does. In fact, it's on our site under
April 18th.
April 18th.
They gave him a description of that particular group. It was
Marc's UFO photos. No, it'd be the photos. And
right there to the left.
the gold one, called April 18th, that one.
Click on it.
Yeah. If you can click on the first picture, you might see what I wrote. These are the sequence that we did. There on the scroll down. Scroll down, further.
Scroll down.
There. Right there.
Okay.
Sananda Ashtar and the ET crew I work with revealed that energetically embedded in the lightship's ionic plasma frequency energy fields are sonic vibratory light codes intentionally placed in the shapes projected in the light around the ships. They suggest as we look at and contemplate the shapes and colors, info is sent to our subconscious and body cells for DNA and spiritual body chakra attunements. These energy balances occur on many multidimensional levels. This creates a radiance transference of light to the pituitary and pineal glands, thereby enhancing the crown chakra to glow and expand towards the 8th to 12th cosmic planes, and also vibrating into the finer, higher light dimensions. You can click on the thumbnails to the left to see enlargements of the morphing light ships. This is what they wanted me to type in there. They definitely said radiance transference of light. They wanted that in there. All the pictures we have taken that show pictograms, I was not aiming at a ship that looked like these shapes. I was aiming at a sparkling, diamondy, shimmering, beautiful spaceship with lights reflecting light. But when they always told me, even in the 1970s, we put the things on your film. Even the old film, you'll see there's old UFOs. Where I would aim at a sky at night, and they tell me, click the camera to your right. Now turn, click, and a UFO will be on the film. All were documented back in those days, too, by MUFON at the time, in 1977, and also Scientific Bureau Investigation with Pete Mazzola. in 1979 and 1980s. And he worked with me for about 5 years, at least for almost 4 to 5 years on these different things. We took the investigators out to New Jersey to have a sky watch, and the ships came. And you can see some of these shapes. One of them, I mean, this is the most bizarre thing, because Phyllis and I are both looking. She took a picture with the other camera, a movie film.
Yeah,
and it shows
just a light sparkling.
Sparkling in the sky. So anybody looking at that could see the light sparkling.
But Marc uses a 300 millimeter lens and just keeps shooting, and that's the way we get the stills. And then I just blend them together to make an animation. I don't touch the I try not to touch the color.
No, like raw film, right?
Yeah, he shoots
digital.
in raw, so I have all of the raw files if anybody ever wanted to look at them, but nobody ever seems to care, but I have them.
Now,
these are amazing. I'm sure that so here's one thing cool about our audience is we've had people on here before that have shown some really good footage of UFOs, and the response has been incredible. So, and these are, in my opinion, some of these are, wow, like that one we just looked at, that gold wishbone. That was amazing. And then the one we were just looking at with the 3 different lights, it almost reminds me of some type of drone out of an anime film or something.
We talk about this like a mandala. You can actually click the animation. It might show you a little animation of them all put together at the bottom there. YouTube morphing, I guess, if you want. It's only less than a minute, right?
I don't know.
Oh,
I can't remember. I haven't looked at it in a long time.
But there is one on this gold that looks like DNA X.
If you clicks to 75.
Oh. Okay, if you click on the 70.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Oh, well, there you go. See on 4, 5, 7, 6 on the right? 4, 5, 7, 6? These things, like, what? You look at this stuff and you're going, hello? But they were saying these are morphing. They're doing this on purpose. And this happens within seconds, these things. They can reflect all these things happening, or pictures or pictograms, into the energy field around their ships and make it appear as they want to appear. So we've had A's appearing in this grouping of the 75 UFOs. There's A's for like Asteron, Ashtar. They were telling us that they were trying to let us know that was who they are, but I knew who they were telepathically. But they just wanted to put the signs in the sky, as they call it, because they say they are the signs in the sky, the biblical text in the old days. And
these are incredible. I mean, just look at these things.
Before I take any pictures, I always have my binoculars, and I look at everything to be sure nothing is something, Earth-like, just in case, because I always want people to know that they're not balloons. They're not balloons. And they just dematerialize right after they're done. They stay only a little while, they tell me. So that's why I take as many pictures in a row as I can.
Now, so these guys contact you like constantly. I mean, is it a weekly thing, every other day?
It's every moment, because these are my own family and friends on the ship, the ones you saw in the pictures. I guess you could click on when we go to this one, Universal ETs. No, ET Encounters or Extraterrestrials. That one will show you my friends and family, and these are just a few. This is a guardian angel your guardian angel, your angelic friends are actually friends in space, but angels are not humans. They're not souls. They are a substance different from soul. So they are their own. They were first created, but they can be in any shape they feel. And they can come visit you right now. And my angel, one of my angels, came to deliver Phyllis's briefcase that was left in a taxi cab. I don't know how many years ago now.
A while back.
And my doorman met her. And my doorman at the time, he's like over 6 feet and change, like 6'4". So when she came, she told him to give the briefcase to them. And she hands him a card, which was my card, actually, out of Phyllis's briefcase that Phyllis had put into an envelope, and everything was just made. So she says, give this to them and tell them that I have it and I brought it back. And what I had written to her in a letter that night before when Phyllis lost the briefcase, you stay positive. I could teach people how to talk to your angels like this and get some help. You handwrite a letter to them. You have to handwrite it. That means physical. And then you ask what you want and need. In this case, I needed that briefcase back, and I trusted in Creator to bring it back. But your angels wait for, all of your angels will wait for you to give them an assignment, which is what they love. When they say, ask us, and we'll help. And prayer helps to build up energy around your aura that they utilize to make miracles for us as well. So it's prayer, meditation energy, your parents or friends and family praying for you, or you praying for friends. This brings energy to your energy field that the angels utilize. And you also pray for your angels too. So she, word for word for that moment, what I wrote in the letter, she said back to my doorman, I had told her, it would be great if you could materialize this briefcase back on the chair where she keeps it, and I'll be positive and focused to it. But it would better yet, why don't you get it, because we didn't have a receipt for the taxi either. Get it with your energy and have it, and then bring it home, bring it back. And then when she said that to the doorman, that's their way of letting you know you were heard. I'm giving you the proof it was me. And because I know my angel, I've met my angels and physically met them actually in the hospital rooms and things. So I know my angel. And so when my friend, the doorman described her perfectly after I kept asking to describe what color this, what color hair, whatever. When I said how tall was she, he got nervous and he laughed and he goes, oh my gosh, I was looking directly into her eyes and all I could see was love. He said, the most perfect person I've ever seen, never saw a person like this, but all I could see was love and feel love from God. And I can't remember anything else except the love coming from her eyes, which were very big. They're very large eyes. And the color of the turquoise blue sky or something. And so she had long golden hair. He showed me where it came to his shoulders and below her shoulders. And when she left, she went up. Actually, she just materialized on our stairs where the building is. And then when she left, she was walking out. She put the briefcase on the table for him. And he says, but wait a minute. Can you tell me, if they ask me who brought it, who should I say brought it? And she said, Angel. And he says, Angel. Angela? Is it Angel or Angela? Is like a short name for Angela? Or she goes, no, Angel. And then she was walking out to the courtyard. We have 3 steps to go up to a sidewalk. And he stops again. He says, but is it Angel or Angela? And she shook her head no with a smile, pointed to the sky with her finger, her right hand, and said, no, an angel from God. Then he was shocked, he said, but he was in awe. She walks up the steps and takes a slight left. Doesn't go, you have to go totally left on our sidewalk because we have trees and stuff blocking. But she aimed towards the trees where you can't go, and cars that were parked so close, their bumpers were almost together. He said she couldn't have climbed over the cars, and she just disappeared because he went out to see where she went right after that, and there was nobody on the sidewalks anywhere. We're in the middle of a block, so when he told me the height, she was close to his height with 6'4". I've seen her 7 feet, but they come anywhere from 6 to 7 feet in their physicals that they can materialize here, or the angel will materialize in the height that you expect if she's trying to get a message. So she might appear to you as an older woman or a bag man or a bag lady or whatever they can to see how you'll react. So they test us all the time. So that was it. And Wes still works for us today in our buildings. And one day last year I said, do you remember meeting my angel? He said, Mark, I've never forgotten it. It was the most incredible moment of my life. I tell people I met an angel the day I met the angel from God. So it's
That's awesome.
I want people to know these things, all things are possible with Creator. Everything is possible. Anything you think is possible. Our doubts are the things that block it. So when you lose something like this, like the briefcase, our first instruction, of course, is do not doubt, stay positive, don't think about it. So Phyllis's job was to stay positive and not think about it. And I was just going to keep focusing energy that she finds everything and gets it.
Okay, he's on the symbols.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you know what? I'm still listening to you. I'm just kind of going and showing this as well, too, while you were talking about that. That's incredible. I mean, I'll tell you, the fact that you've got these angels and guides and interdimensional, extraterrestrial, whatever. I mean, it's just absolutely incredible. How cool is that? You're definitely living in the X-Files meets Fringe, but with a happy ending and not this, let's create these genetically modified extraterrestrial humans that eat people when they get out of line. I mean, these seem like to be really positive energy forces, and I wonder why oftentimes the stuff you see on TV, 90% of the media pushes ETs as being, just demonic, and they just want to take your soul and they want to take the planet for themselves. Maybe it's, just because doom sells. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, perfect question, because we are always talking about this. The beings that we know, and these beings other people know. We're not just the only ones, but I do say my friends and family are my friends, and they've always said, "Don't worry." Well, we came from a different galaxy as a group of 12 of us, and different ones too in other galaxies now. So the beings that you see in the drawings are my close friends. Sananda, we all know on the higher realms, but these are benevolent beings. They're what you would call an ascended master ET. They're ascended beings. They're love and they're light. They're beautiful beings.
Your future selves, right?
And really, like Phil said, it is your future self. When you connect to your higher self, to your over self, that's you. That's your total self. You now, as always has been, forever, ever, amen. That for eternity. You have the form, whatever feels right to you and you feel happy in, you become the form you feel good in. And you can take on any sex, any vibe, any feeling you feel. You could be blue, you can have green hair, you can be purple skin, whatever a person feels that they want to feel happy. And
going back to why it's so dark down here.
Many people take a form that they remember from other times where they had, other beings similar. Yeah, why they're negative down on this planet? Remember, it's boot camp here. Where did those entities go that were cast around because they were trying to say they could be better or more than creator? There actually were these beings that did that, and they were, like, say, cast down. Okay, so when I'm up in space, we talk about this. Actually, I worked on the ship, so even before I came here. So when we talk about that, when you say cast down, people think, oh, they were just thrown onto a planet. What it means is from the high realms of light where we were. And since I was a kid, about not even 10 and 11, I was talking about the 12 dimensions beyond on this planet and beyond. But then I said, but there's always more. So no one understood me until like 2000. And you couldn't find any information on it. ARE didn't even know because I talked to them. And I told them, look, there's 12 dimensional spaces, yes, that work with densities and frequencies that are physically like this, but you're of a higher vibration. But on higher levels than that, the 22nd and beyond, we're light energies, like light beings of light. So when we're talking now, we're going to have to say trillions of years ago, before thinking of time, when we were all created, there were these beings we will call the angelic beings, and those who went with them, which would have been souls too, who wanted to have pride and vanity and think they were better than anything and that they can create anything. What they didn't understand is they were going in pride and vanity above thinking they were better than God, let's say, better than Creator. Well, that vanity brought them to lower their frequencies. And from that, Creator created, or the beings created, and that Creator created the light realms that would now be able to house these people, these souls and angelic beings. So when it said cast down, it created frequencies like Earth densities and a little lower than that. Like physical density like here, the physical density of the etheric level, low etheric levels, and this physical level we're on now, and a lower level of densities where these entities can be. And that's where they were cast down. Doesn't mean we're just cast down to planet Earth. It means they're cast down to that densities that are heavy like that. So if there's a planet physical density like Earth in the other parts of the galaxy, other solar systems out there, it doesn't mean all people are subject to these negative beings. If there are tested grounds, they will be. But if a soul is of high light-mindedness, there are beings out there as physical as we are that are masters, that can handle this stuff. These entities don't bother them because they can't get near their energy field. There are entities in space that are physical, semi-physical, and etheric that never went through what the Earth has gone through, where they went into this evil realm. They just never murdered another person. They stayed with the true teachings that Creator set forth in the high realms, which was to love each other as your brothers and sisters and be one with each other in that way. because Earth is the dense, very dense planet, it is one of the lowest of the density physicals. We'll say that's why it's a boot camp or a training ground. Because these entities are down here as well in this low levels, and because they can trick people easily, because the souls came in to forget to train themselves, they're given a veil of remembrance so they don't remember everything they did in their past times in other places. That's when these entities test people. And they will test their, what do we say, their spiritual qualities, I guess. Vanity, ego.
I guess the 7 deadly sins.
Yeah, different things that are on the dense levels like this. They could test people and say, you know, that you're better than them, you're better than that person, you're prettier, you're more handsome. And that's not what it's about on this density. That's not what it's about. Because like a car, there are so many different cars out there in different models, from a hatchbacks to a little bug to a SUV or whatever. We are the soul in that SUV, or the soul is the car. We are the inside the car driving that soul, which is the body, that the soul is operating the body. So we don't see the souls for who they really are. We're seeing these outer forms, which are different shells. And the fact that people try to judge a shell better than another shell is not fair, not right, not to be done. And it's not done on those high levels at all.
Also, I think, and you've said this before, if you're a soul, you have to be a very bold and strong soul to choose to come into a reality like this and to test yourself, because you could probably have 50 etheric lives,
or 100,
or 100
on an etheric level,
and that you wouldn't advance as far as you would having one life on Earth, because Earth is so difficult. And if you can really get to a higher level of awareness in this density, you have really, it's like you went from kindergarten to PhD. Or you can just have 100 nice, easy, etheric lives and not have very many challenges, which is nice too. But the souls that have come into this density, they are courageous.
Yes. That's why.
Let me ask a question if I can, and that's certainly a good way to look at it. I appreciate that thought process. The powers that be, whoever they are, whoever's pulling the strings at the very top level, seems to really be pushing this dark agenda. I mean, if you look at the global wars, healthcare is not healthcare. I consider it more death care. Let's keep people sick and just to the point where they're healthy enough to survive, but continue to, feed off of these products and these pharmaceuticals. That most of the foods out there are not clean. Animals that are slaughtered are done in a horrible way in these factory farms, where they just basically put them through these, conveyor belts. Okay, we're going to kill you next, kill you next, kill you next, kill you next, whatever. So is there like a faction of some pretty bad dudes, space guys or whatever, that have all this power and control and can shapeshift to look like us? I mean, what's going on, man? Have you ever talked to your space friends about this and said, hey, what about everybody else?
Yeah. I forgot. I'm so sorry I didn't get back to what we were talking about. I went off again. So sorry.
Oh, no need at all.
The negative realms, the things that are happening here, is why you see this, like we call it the cosmic boot camp, is the negative stuff, the battle that's happening here all the time. These dense levels like physical planet Earth. So yeah, we have to fight really hard. The more the light you bring around you, the more you have to even fight these negative beings, or these playful greebles, or lower astrals, we call them, all different types of names, or people might say Satan, or evil. It's okay. They're all working together in that way to bring us down in our light, because they take that energy when they can. And I tell people stay away from bars, because in the bars are these lower astrals I've seen, because I was invited to one time and I saw them, and I don't drink, and I don't take drugs, and I don't smoke, I don't do that, but I never have. But the thing is these beings hang out in areas like that, wherever, let's say, drugs are sold, alcohol, pornography, all these places, these beings stay and hang out, succubus, because they take energy from the energy field of the soul or the person who walks in or drinks the booze or whatever they're doing, and they lose their energy in that. Maybe they fight, they get negative. These beings take that energy from their auric field, so they end up feeling depleted. So that's part of their game, is to take energy from us too, because that's what they use on their frequency. But we, by keeping us blasting in white light, love, energy, white light, they can't stand that light. They don't like that. They like gray, dull, brown, and colors that are greed, of that kind of negativity. So what's happening on planet Earth, to get back, I'm so sorry, is to the idea by these beings, or these beings who are manipulating people, and they manipulate them with telepathy or whispering in their ear in a frequency. They want to keep everything frightened, scary, negative, ways to keep people frightened and scared, like the Earth's going to blow up, things are going to hit the planet, meteors are coming to blow you up. These are the way they keep people distracted and frightened, and energy, and the energy of fear. But the Matrix is right.
The Earth has flipped a few times already and destroyed, civilizations in the past. This isn't anything new. It just happens to be coming to a head right now in negativity. But things have been pretty bad for a long time. I don't think you can look at the last 2,000 years in our history and say that there were any, good times.
I mean, if you go back, certainly even 500 years ago, when you've got these women that were being burnt at the stake because someone would call them a witch, who knows? And even if they were, I mean, are you going to go burn them at the stake now? I mean, give me a break. It's just, so yeah, you're absolutely right. You look at some of the torture chambers and mechanisms that were used back in the Crusades in medieval times. I mean, it's horrific, So I can definitely see where you're going with that.
You can see how people are manipulated to do that.
But it's happening right now.
It's happening now, yeah.
What we like to say is that, it's Armageddon every single second somewhere for someone. Were they ready to forgive their transgressor and move to the next level of consciousness if they happen to be killed? Because somebody somewhere right now has just died. And did they die a violent death? Did they die a fair death, a bad death, a good death? This is what we're trying to say. It's like, yeah, things are pretty bad down here, and will they get better? We don't know. We don't know if in fact, and we have a real heart after animals, so we really understand how you feel about the mistreatment of the animals in the food system and all of that. It's to me, that's even more devastating than what people have to go through, because I know people have karma and animals are pure and innocent. So it's a difficult realm. This is a heck of a realm that we're all living in.
But you're not supposed to kill yourself, everybody, because just bring you back to accomplish and fix what you did, or relive certain things all over again just to finish it. So even though we're challenged and all these things go on, in truth, in your heart, you wouldn't want to switch places with somebody else, because your past event, your event, why you chose to come here. And this is what it's about. We are all, like, the Akashic energy frequencies are all around us. It is not a place to go like a library. It is a frequency. And within that frequency, and even finer, the Akashic energy field is within the frequency of what we call in space the elliptical webs. That frequency is even finer, shimmers like diamonds and blue and light and colors. But if you could see with physical eyes, it would look like sparkles all over the place. But on the high realms, you can actually see it when you ask to see it. And within that frequency holds all of us, of the frequency of Creator's light, what it's using. Then the Akashic frequency is mixed in with that frequency of elliptical web, because it records everything in every way, thought forms, thoughts, actions, words, deeds, everything. So when they play back your information when we pass on, and they ask you, how have you helped and who have you loved, or things like that, that's what they ask, your over part. How did you help and how did you love? They want to know. They don't care if you made millions. They don't care if you built skyscrapers and boats. They want to know who you helped and how you loved as soul. So it's very important.
He's on an incredible. You're on an incredible.
Oh, you're in the pictograms.
You're on an incredible group right now, which we haven't even really.
Wow, yeah, I didn't go into that one, but this one was a picture of UFO. When I was taking the picture of the UFO, what I saw in the sky was again a sparkling diamond of silver. When I got home to see the pictures, this is what they put on the film.
Looks like a seashell in the sky.
In close up. This one, the heart the one above is I love you. They told me that. I said, oh, we thought it was like a
lotus.
lotus flower opening or like symbolic lotus image. And they said, well, actually, go look up sign for sign language. And I said, okay. So I had to go to the computer and look it up and look up sign. And they said, look for love you. And then there it was. I love you. They said that's what they were trying to attempt with
and
the
one
frequency.
next to it is extraordinary.
No, one next to it is
up
4665.
If you
close up on that, I don't know if it closes up.
Just
there's a heart and a cross. And what they said they were trying to show in symbology was an open hand in some way, like a hand. They had a little frequency stuff going on with the hearts. They were doing a lot of hearts to let us know they love us. They had one that was like reaching up, and
it's to the right. Yeah, that one.
That one there, 4659, is like they said a hand reaching up. Like they ask us, they cannot come to you. They said, we cannot come to you. We can't do that first because that would be intruding. You have to come to us first, and we can then come to you. So everybody listening, you go out there in prayer and thought. Always ask for benevolence and light. Don't just willy-nilly ask for any ET to show up, and don't go flashing your flashlights at any UFO you think you see flying by, because it might not be the benevolent groups. It might be the lower ones or the Earth-based types who are, playful, let's say, or not playful. And military Earth has some of their own little spaceship things they're utilizing around the planet. They don't all fly into deep space, though. Any space travel Earth has done has come from ETs helping them. And I used to tell people, when they went to the moon, and you know why they haven't been back in all those years? And it's because you weren't invited back.
Right.
Now,
what do you think's on the moon?
Oh, I've seen it. I've been there. And Ingo Swann and I connected with that.
Oh, man, I got to jump in real quick, Mark. You brought up Ingo Swann. Talk about synchronicities. I literally was talking about Ingo Swann earlier today. Just a few hours ago, we had Lynn Buchanan on the show.
Oh, okay.
And he's he was friends with Ingo. I mean, they worked together back in the Stargate project. And
right.
I asked him that exact question. I brought that up. I said, what about Ingo Swann talking about being on doing a remote viewing session of the moon when some men in black took him underground, and he remote viewed these naked humanoids on the moon in green mist doing this mining type operation?
Well, yeah, there's different types of beings, but they were more scientific types. I was 5 years old when I went out of body to the moon because I used to love to look at the moon in the sky. And I've been to the moon in past times, experienced in other times. Let's say my space travel times before I came here. And we visited Earth a lot. And we've been working around the Earth for many times. I told my father I was in a spaceship that buzzed with the over the capital of Washington in early 1951, and I was born in 53. So he was saying, "You were where?" And when we finally found an old photos of these UFOs over the Washington, the White House area, there was a formation. I was in one of those formations. I was like third on the right when you look at it. So it's funny. My memories are clear about where we've come, where I've been doing. So I talked to Ingo. When we met Ingo back in 1992 or 3, right around 1993, and he saw my soul within me, and meaning my projection, my true self, my form, and he says to me, "So he doesn't know anything about me right now, right?" He says to me, "So it must have been awful claustrophobic for you to get all that energy from that higher realm frequencies there to come into that little tiny baby inside your mother." And I went, yes, it was claustrophobic. And then I left it, and I just got connected and went out of body. And then he says, I see you. And I said, me? And then I said, you see me inside me? He says, yeah. And he points to one of my illustrations of myself, my overself, and he says, that's you right there. I see you right there. So I've only had a few pretty cool psychics, a very few of them. I'd say 3. Besides Ingo and 2 others, have actually seen me inside the body as a spirit form talking to them. They would say, you're an alien, you're an ET. So it's kind of, I don't mean to sound like this, but this is what Ingo saw. And then we talked about the moon, and he says to me, I said, yeah, I went to the other side, the dark side of the moon has got buildings on it. And he says, you've been there? I said, yeah. So this is back then. He says, you're the only person on the whole planet I've ever seen what I've seen. And from that moment, we were best buds. And I always called him the captain, and because I know I had been with him before, and I also knew he was once my dad. And he always felt this with me.
There's a picture. We were going over to Ingo's house one day to set up a
well, this
fax
is outside
machine,
our living room. You know.
a fax machine, and on the way, it was Mark's birthday. He took some photographs of the ships.
Oh,
and,
right.
And when we went, we set this fax machine up, and then he took us to lunch at Phoebe's. And after lunch, I showed Ingo the pictures. I said, "Oh, we got some UFOs on the way down," and I showed him the camera.
It was like across the street from his building, basically.
And he loved them.
Almost.
He says, yes, there they are. He said, would you print these out? I'd like to send some of these pictures to Jacques Vallée. So we printed pictures out, and Ingo sent them to Jacques Vallée. It was pretty cool. Here they are down
That's
here.
amazing.
Where's the tape?
It's another. If you go,
oh my gosh, that one was at the Museum of Modern Art. 7 spaceships came after 10 minutes. I prayed and called, and then we were in a lounge or an outside garden.
We didn't have the good camera.
We didn't have a good camera. We had this other camera there.
Point and shoot.
So we're lucky we got this kind of clarity.
Right.
See that little camera? It was a little tiny thing.
Little G10 there.
Yeah. But they came flying as the flying eagles. They look like silver eagles.
If he goes down a little bit more, a little bit more
further
to the right there.
Okay, on the May 18th link at the bottom right, next to the formation on the right, on the left.
That was the group that
this was the day we appeared at the UFOs came. And you see the little dots? I have my binoculars. There's enough threads. These are plasma shoot dots they do. They use those for fun when they're trying to get our attention. So sometimes you'll see lines and no lines, or dots and flashes. And there's shots in this sequence where you do not see these dots. Anyway, if it was a balloon, if one of people said, "Mama, it was a balloon," no, it wasn't. But if it was, you'd see lots of threads. And I wouldn't take a picture of balloons, although in the past I took one to show what they look like. But you see how they morph shape, and then they change shapes to like diamond shapes, and they were just playing. And in one, I don't know if it's this, one of these pictures far off to the right, I don't think it shows up on these pictures. There was a tiny little sphere, which we call the probe, which always shows up. And a lot of times people can see if you see a real UFO in the sky. If you look around, you might see another glowing little object like the size of a baseball.
Oh, you know what?
That's a probe.
What I remember about this is when Marc, when Ingo sent these to Jacques Vallée called us and got Marc sometime around Christmas, I think.
Yeah, it was Christmas Eve.
And he said that his film, one of his film guys had seen exactly the same ships in the sky.
What are you talking about, the formation?
That you had shot. Wasn't it?
No, it was formation.
Was it formation?
Yeah, well, he got these first, and then we sent him the formation.
I'm sorry.
After Ingo wanted him to see the formation.
We also sent him, Ingo sent him the formation as well, so.
Okay.
That's what
next to this one on the screen, the picture.
So he said his cameraman had seen the exact same formation.
These UFOs here, though, they shut off, and they were like, shut off, and that's it, time's up, poof, they're gone. They don't even zoom away. They just, like, you took this blinker and blinked them off. That's how they disappeared. Okay, scrolling down. There you go. On below. Oh, well, that's a different day.
That was a weird one.
That was another one. We came home
Looks
from
like a
Ingo.
rocket ship.
I know. We came home from Ingo and was at a different area, and I heard look over there, and I look over, and that was there. And it just flashed on and moved a little bit and was gone. That's what they do. So you scroll below that one, you got the formation at November 1st, 2011. And that one...
11/1/11.
I know, right? Whoa. I was actually looking at mail on the table in our dining area, entry areas, and I'm just looking through stuff, and I hear, "Come to the window now," telepathically, which is like a voice says it to you. So I go over to our window. I have my camera there and binoculars, and I look straight out, and I say, "Yeah, yeah," and I'm waiting, and I hear, "No, look directly up." So I had to turn to the left and look straight over, up above, and there, hovering, were these objects just shimmering like diamonds. And I don't have a movie camera, so that I had to use the camera I had, which was that little point and shoot, if you see again. Um, and I just zoomed in as much as I could, and I took the picture. Now they were just hovering, sitting there in one position. Then one of the objects, let's say the spaceship on the top right at the second line, the one that's highest, that one, and the one below at the bottom of that line switched places. They moved and switched places.
Showing up.
Like telling me hello. And then slowly they started to move. And so I took the picture, and they see how they were going in the direction the arrow shows. Instead of what you thought maybe the arc, they would form the arc and head to the left. They were going in an opposite C shape like that, heading to the east side, heading towards Central Park on the east side. Left would have been heading to the Hudson River up in the sky. And we met a guy in one of our lectures that actually saw them too. He was having lunch at a taxi break.
On that day,
he saw something, jets or something, he said, and then he saw these things sitting there, and they started slowly moving. So,
have you ever seen what looks like kind of a sky jellyfish?
Yeah, there's a picture of some of those. I call them the transparent sphere.
You haven't shot it though.
Yeah, we did. That was that one that was.
Which one?
Oh gosh! See, there's a sphere. I'm trying to scroll up. Where is that?
Do
one?
I have them?
Yeah, that was the one with the red one, right? And then the one came with it on the side. Well, those are the golden spheres. They came right over. They popped on, came over us, and shut off. They morphed around a little bit, but that was it.
Well, they were following you that day. We didn't have the good camera.
We didn't have a great camera, Again, the little point and shoot.
Yeah, so you've got a camera wherever you go, I'll bet, anymore, don't you?
They're heavy. That big one is heavy, and I carry it up to the park, but that's right here to be shot from the windows. But sometimes when we're traveling around downtown, you don't want to lug that heavy thing, so you take the point and shoot. But the joke is they're not always there.
Right.
And when I don't have a camera, they'll show up for fun, and people with me see them. They might form from triangles, they do different things, and then they just shut off.
You ever heard of the saying, Murphy's an optimist?
What is that?
The Murphy's Law thing?
Yeah.
That's true. See, this one, these were transparent and then they showed up again, and our friend was with us witnessing that up at the Botanical Gardens.
But we don't always, you don't always...
Oh, wait a minute, go back.
We don't always get...
Is this the one that has it?
What is that one?
I think it's this one.
Oh, is it?
If you scroll down, see that orb on the bottom there? That's a different spaceship. That's the one that kind of looks like, you say, jellyfishy. It looked like a transparent sphere. Is this the same show that day?
Yeah, that was the second group that came back.
A group went by, a spaceship went by on the right, on my left side towards the Hudson River area, and I was called to the window. And, yeah, that one. And then I asked if they could come back after the other one left. And then I was called back to the window to look to my left, and there, the same object I saw like a half hour or so before came back on the same path and looked exactly the same, like a transparent sphere. So you can kind of see how beautiful it looks and the color. I mean, that's the closest I can come to the idea of a jellyfishy looking thing, that it kind of looks transparent.
He's probably thinking of tentacles.
Oh, you mean tentacled?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, straight up tentacles. I mean, full-on sky jellyfish. The cosmic jellyfish is what I call it.
Is he thinking of Trevor Constable?
Like Trevor Constable stuff?
That name doesn't really sound familiar. I'd have to see a photograph to put a reference to it. But I've got a friend that actually has been a contactee her whole life, and I'm talking physically contact with more of the gray type, and she sees all sorts of stuff, and she often sees these cosmic jellyfish in the sky with the tentacles and everything, yeah.
I don't think we've ever seen
I
that.
think they can morph into anything they feel, and it sounds really kind of cool, actually. I've seen them online, I think, though. I think I've seen one online. But the thing is, um, a lot of that might be also their plasma energy. They morph around, they play with the plasma field around their ships, and they can make that field appear and like create hearts and shapes in their field, which happened to our friend who was a witness, our friend Marie, at her house, her sister's house, upstate. And I did the prayer call, what I do, my words and everything. And I went inside the house, and about not even 5 minutes or later, or 10 minutes, I heard come outside. So I went out, and there hovering looked like a pearl, and it was about
You mean Marie?
Marie,
Yeah.
it was like 7 in the evening, and it came over the yard and hovered there. And I gave her my binoculars to look through to take the picture. I mean, take the binoculars. Well, Phyllis took a picture. I had the point and shoot, and Phyllis had the better camera.
I never posted those pictures.
You didn't?
No, I didn't post them from that night. I posted them from, a couple of days earlier when we were up in Canaan, New York.
Yeah.
That group.
Well, they had a heart.
Yeah.
And Marie saw the formation of the heart on the side of the ship with a spear. And I had just been telling her that they'll do that. And she goes, "Oh, I'm seeing something now." And it looked like a cross and then a heart. I said, "Yeah, that's the Christ group." I'm introducing the Christ group. I'm probably the only one on planet Earth right now doing that. The Christ group, I held back doing that for years, since the 70s, because I didn't know how people would really understand or take this information. But it just is the benevolence, the love, the Creator's love of the Christed energy. And so Christ awareness or Christ consciousness encounters people have with Christ consciousness and awareness, and that gives them sometimes a Kundalini experience. But the Christ group is beings like benevolent ETs and benevolent beings from around and angels from different galaxies and dimensions, working all together to bring love, to bring Creator's love to all, to help people to recognize and remember and bring them back home. And my group is from the Asiglion group. That's where you see that name, Asiglion. That was the name of the galaxy we came from, that my friends and I, and Phyllis. And we're all part of the same crew here. And part of my reason for coming to planet Earth, at the time, we had to go to the councils to talk with them about coming in. And if you don't have karma here, you can't get in that easily, because right now the planet is working through a lot with the souls that keep coming back. So they said to me and my friends, they said, "Well, the only way you can get in is you have to take a body that'll be discarded, that will not be needed." And they can try to find that. And they also want to try to find souls that I worked with before. So actually, my father was a space person. I'd known him in space at the time. My parents are now deceased a long time, but he always told me he wanted to be an astronomer. He was a mathematical genius. At 5 years old, he just knew things. So there's the Asiglion group. And also for Phyllis, I had to get back to try to help my soulmate, because she got stuck here too, like some of the other people that came to help. And a lot of these souls are galactics and universals. You came to try to help. Like you, Rex, the same type of thing. You're trying to help, and you're trying to put information out to help the souls wake up there, to understand all these different things here. What's going on planet Earth at the time right now is a lot of negative stuff is happening because they're battling this negativity, and we have to fight harder to stay positive and loving to our brothers and sisters, and we have to learn to forgive. As horrible as the things that happen to people, we have to forgive them, because, like Yeshua said, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Because when they've come in here, they've been like they call veiled, or their memory is taken in a certain part, so they can experience physically here as new, so they can experience new and relearn or learn something, but they still have instinct or memories left over. So sometimes, like General Patton remembered, he was a Roman in his past, and he said everything he was doing in the wartime was things he remembered and knew that worked in his past time. So sometimes a person is given a flash of who they once were or what they once did. And that's how it kind of works in different ways, because as before we come in, we set things up to be remembered at certain trigger points. Like some accidents happen because a trigger is to be set. Maybe the person has to be tossed in some way or bumped in some way that triggers a energy reaction within their spinal column or their brain, let's say. I mean, I'm just saying this because it can happen to people. And they might have a Kundalini experience if they just fall a certain way on their butt. You know, you never know. These things happen to people.
You know, I think we should probably, before we aren't on the air anymore, the really the critical thing here is that with so much evil going on in the world is not to get caught up in it and hate the people that are doing the evil. Even though we want to hate them, we, at the end of the day, our own hatred of people that are clueless or that don't know the truth about their own spirituality, their children that are making mistakes, and if we don't forgive them, we will bind ourselves to them. And so this is a real difficult thing for people like yourself and like myself, who, you know, really see, when we see injustice, you know, we hate it. But we have to be able to forgive the people who are too ignorant to understand really what they're doing to their own souls. So, like, basically, whatever horrible things they're doing will come back to them, but we have to forgive them so we don't bind ourselves to them for another lifetime because we couldn't forgive them.
And so, if not that person, somebody that takes that place of that type of
it's a tough one. It's a tough one. That's why it's so difficult to walk this middle path where you despise all the negativity in the world, but you understand that these souls are hurting themselves more than anybody else.
Like the teachers all saying, Yeshua and everyone, they say you have to try to be in the world, but not of it, in a sense. We are here. When we walk outside, I walk in New York or wherever I'm walking, I prayer walk. And people try to prayer walk. You just say prayers and thoughts of love or beautiful meditation to Creator, whatever you want to do. Talk to the nature spirits. The nature spirits are real. I can tell you tons about Nature Kingdom and fairies because we have them in our apartment. People see them. We're taking pictures of them. Touch the plants as you walk by. And bless the trees, the nature kingdom of with the tree, the diva. They will respond back in different ways because they read us and they know who likes plants and trusts them or would be open to them. And a lot of times they've told me, I have an elf in the house here too. A lot of times they tell me, you know, you don't see us, we let you see us. The only thing a psychic person says, well, I'm psychic, I can see them. What they see is what these fairies allow them to see psychically would be maybe glowing light, moving form, flashes by their peripheral vision, zooming by as a little ball of light. But when they want you to see them, I mean really see them, like a physical little elf with or a fairy with wings like I've seen, they do that. They utilize our energy field of our aura, which would be the ectoplasmic energy people might say see in a seance. They utilize that frequency of energy to materialize their thought form body into a physical form for us to see as they run by in front of us or sit on a shelf like one of my friends did here named Hyan, and he waved and then he dematerialized. My cat chased a fairy, just the wings, no body. And I've seen the fairy twice, a different one. So they can do these different things. We can get into a whole nother subject with Nature Kingdom because we also have I've seen a unicorn appear in our house here, materialized.
They're going to think you're crazy, honey.
I don't know, but they're real.
Okay, we were with you, Mark, until you brought up the unicorn. All right? Well, I'm just kidding. Man. That was good. That's cool.
No, dragons, unicorns, all that stuff. They're all from the nature realm, spirit realm of that, where you see nature, elves or fairy realm.
Well, yeah, that's the evolutionary path for the angelic kingdom.
The angelic kingdom.
A nature spirit eventually becomes a great angel. That's their evolution.
That's what they've told us and work with them. Angels don't become humans, but they can materialize to look like a human and help you out of a park in the dark. Or like they'll materialize as a big dog next to you, like it's happened to people. And when they get out of the park where it's dangerous, the dog will walk away now that they're going to have people around them or a bus. The dog walks away, the person looks back, and there's no dog anywhere. Big white shepherd or something, which I used to raise anyway. But these are all true stories of Phenomenal.
Does he have any questions?
Do you have any more questions, Rex? I mean, there's lots of stuff I can go on. That symbol at the bottom of the image.
Yeah.
There,
What is
the
this?
symbol,
Is awesome.
That's the intergalactic mission symbol. We have a 3D effect of it, but
You're working on a book right now.
we're working on a couple of books. We got three or four books actually we're working on at once. The symbols book and the galactic like a universal galactic handbook, and
Very cool.
other things, different books. But I'm almost ready with the symbols handbook. At least the symbols, we want the people to have them. That's why we posted some on the site to work with. We've had connections with people all around planet Earth, psychics, or people who have come to our talks. We will give them certain symbols to play with, and they come back with the information that they've been experiencing with them, which is what they are. They cleanse areas. Yehoshua was the one who told me, Sananda, to bring those symbols back, the ones that you saw before, those symbols on the site. So this represents the intergalactic mission in space. It's actually a spherical 3D image with light and formation of frequency within that square shape, which you might say as above, so below, but it's many different images. The circle and the cross is a sacred symbol in space, that perfect circle with a perfect cross in the center. And that's all part of the Christ group as well. And
It
so
looks like it's got
that,
quadrants there, and
yeah, that's all different things that they represent. But see the circle and the cross in the center, and then the bigger circle and the cross is the whole thing. But the circle and the cross by itself represents not only Sananda or Yehoshua, but it also is a symbol for the planet Earth that we see when we're in space, when we have different charts and things that go on. That is the symbol for planet Earth, because it is the dense planet, the heavy dense planet. And I know people, part of my mission here is to get people to understand who these beings are. And Yehoshua, as Sananda, the being known as Mary now, we call Universal Mother. They are the divine aspects of Creator's light coming through on their frequencies now. Mary represents divine feminine, and Yehoshua a divine masculine form right now. And they are one with Creator in all ways. Now we are also one with Creator on those levels, but Yehoshua was given that title for first son, let's say, because he, as the angels told me, not Yehoshua, he would never tell you these things. He's the humblest, most powerful being, but he's the most humblest on the universes. He was first to come back to Creator when we were all formed and created. So he was the first to go back to energy of Creator, without a fear or worry of like caring what would happen to him, as an androgynous being. Went in without a care. I don't care if I exist again or don't exist, I want to be one. And because of that love, which we all as souls project to, when you think to Creator, you project as one, and you say, I want to be one with you. I did that as a 10-year-old, asking, I want to be one with you. I only want to be with you. And I floated out of my body, so I thought, till I hit the ceiling. I was levitated up to the ceiling until I realized I was not out of my body. So that's in focusing of love with oneness and Creator. So Creator
so when Yeshua
sent Yeshua all the information and said, this is what the angel Michael told me.
Saint Michael.
Saint Michael.
Okay.
So he told me that, and that was when I was 18 years old, said he went in with that consciousness, like, I want to be one. I don't care if anything ever happens to me. I just want to be one with you. I just love you. That kind of feeling. Because he was first in back to the energy frequency of light, which was high, he was given every knowledge of everything. And he said, you're the first Creator, which is not male or female, just is. You're the first to come back to me. And because of that, you must go back out and tell the others that there's nothing to be afraid of. It's only about love. Because the souls weren't afraid, but like moths gathering around a light, we were all just being near the energy and the love. But we didn't go back into it because we were confused. If we go there, what happens? We don't understand. Even though we felt drawn to go in, but we never went further. Yeshua, known as Sananda, went further.
That's why
and
he's the
Sananda
first son.
means son of love.
You
So-
know, the moth analogy used probably wasn't the best one with the white light.
I know, right? But, yeah, I know. Forget that part. But you know how they come towards the light, they hover near it.
Right.
That kind of a feeling is what we were experiencing with love. So because they was sent back out, and when we all understood telepathically, basically with light, we understood, and then we all of us went back into Creator. So I always tell people, you know, it's not your first time. We've been back and forth many times. That's how you recharge. You have love with the Infinite One, who loves us more than anything, more than any of us can even comprehend. The Creator loves us more than anything, and wants to be like I tell people, make Creator your beloved and watch what happens in your life. Because when you make the Creator your most beloved, and that doesn't mean you don't love your wife or husband or dog or cat or, you know, any less in any way. It just means the Creator must be number one in pure love in all that we have. And everything else comes with that. So when you ask Creator, please, I need help with this or that. Oh, please give me the wisdom to understand this. When you ask for the wisdom, Creator gives you even more. And that's a secret from the teachings I know from space. Don't ask for health and strength, and don't ask for this or that, because when you ask for strength, things come that build strength, which could be more hardships in different ways to build inner strength. But when you ask for the wisdom of divineness, I want the wisdom of Creator, please send that wisdom to me to understand how to work here, how to live on this planet, or how to function with this, or deal with this information, or deal with these people, or whatever it is. Ask for wisdom, and Creator will give you wisdom plus more. And so ask for out of body, ask for astral travel, or I call soul travel, which is taking more energy with you. You ask to be taken to the teaching ships around planet Earth. We have 3 of them. One of them over America's area in Canada. It's about 2,000 miles long. It's a huge ship. It's a high etheric ship, but it also comes in a low etheric, so that the souls can be out of body and come and teach and learn there. So a lot of times there's a psychics here. We got lots of intuitives, and they're teachers here on Earth. Well, when they go out of body at night, they might be training some souls on a class on the ship. Or they're training classes in places around planet Earth on these other frequencies near the heavenly realms. The heaven realms have a lot of teaching temples and beautiful places to visit. So if you ask to be taken by your guardian angels and or Yehoshua, Sananda, also you can also ask for Astron, you can ask for Ashtar. Mostly Ashtar, his crew will come to you. Astron, you might see him, but he's not always on these ships. We're on these other ships. So I tell people to program that. Program to be taken to the ship and recall everything you see, taste, smell, touch, and feel. Because in out-of-body state, everything is super real. And if you program yourself to remember all those things, when you wake up, you want to recall, program to recall, you might notice that the things you recall are the things that felt dense and physical to you, which is feeling and touch. So when you get out of body, I tell people, if you're out of body, you're in a lucid dream state, and you start waking up in that lucid dream, that means you're astrally traveling or out of body right now in your own room or house. So stomp your feet on the floor in your out-of-body state, and you will feel the density you're on. And you might feel cushion levels. It's funny. And or you might see how you're dressed. If you're a universal person or galactic, like my friends and our friends that we know, they get out of body, and sometimes they're in these spacesuits. So you can look like yourself similar. If you see yourself in an earth mirror out of body, you can program to see yourself. And then program to see yourself reflecting on any of the dimensional space you're on. And your subconscious will take you to see yourself, even in water reflections. So you might see a perfected form of your earth self, or a form that you feel you look like within yourself. Even though you look at a mirror, you see one form. You might feel, well, I actually am this other type of entity. I feel it all the time. And so that surprises people when they see an aspect of themselves that's their true form when they're out on the ships. They actually look a little different than they do on Earth. Some of them have big eyes, some of them don't. Different color hair. It's kind of interesting and fun at the same time. But that's why people, when I've been out of body with them, they'd say, well, where were you? I didn't see you. And I said, I was standing right next to you. Oh, those big ET guys. I said, well, that was me and my friends, and I was talking to you. So this is how it works for us on these levels. And I'm here to try to help people get to those points and have a memory, hopefully remembering some of these things happening to them. And when we do our lectures and talks and things, we do an activation where they activate the level or frequencies above the 7 earth chakras on the body. We go into the 8, 9, 10, and 12. Opens up the crown very wide. And I guess, like Phyllis, we've had people tell us these things, like Reiki masters and things come to us and tell us, I never experienced anything like it. And yet now it's open. So become like telepathic with your higher part as well, higher self. The intuition you feel is your higher self usually talking to you or giving you information, or your angel, depending on the voice or feeling. But when you open to the higher self aspect.
Did you tell them about the
really
ET symbols, though? Because universal ET symbols are actually unbelievable. They're you won't believe it when you see what he's gotten.
Well, we have more than 80 now. We have over 100.
We've got about 100 of them, but the first book will probably have about 70 something in it. And each curvature of each line actually has a significant meaning that will blow your mind when you see what these anatomies of these symbols look like and what they can be used for.
What's the name of the book?
Right now, we're probably
sure.
calling it the Alchemical Universal Symbol.
Right now, if you go into books, I've put a dummy.
She put up a dummy book
If you go under books, there's
under YouTube's. There it is.
Yeah, I put a dummy of it.
It's just an idea of what we might have.
But what these symbols are mind blowers, and it's a mind blowing alchemical shorthand of creator that Marc was told was created when the first
systems occurred. This is the way we see frequency in symbols. They appear like these light symbols on the high ships, the Arcbanas, and they go. I used to see this as a child, these beautiful symbols, but I didn't know they were symbols at the time. At the time, I was out of body on the ship, but I was in my Earth consciousness, experiencing it like you're astrally out there and out of body, and then I would connect with my higher self part. But unless you ask the questions, you don't get the answers right away on those ships, on those levels, because you're always being tested.
Marc,
so,
have you heard of Franz Barden?
No.
Okay, Franz Barden was one of the most famous people ever as far as hermetics is concerned in his genre, in his time frame. And he was just absolutely ahead of his time. He was so good with mind over matter capabilities that Hitler actually kidnapped him and tried to use him for his gain to win the war. He was very well versed with the Kabbalah and could actually create things via sound waves because of his studies and research. And to make a long story short, I've read all of his books, and one of them, that he put together, he has a chapter or several chapters that show actual talismans or sigils to create certain entities and certain forces and dimensional beings, and they look very similar to these that you're showing me right here.
I have to see these books.
You would have to see that.
I would love to see that.
These are all benevolent. All of the symbols that we have cannot be used for anything that overpowers somebody. It all has to be benevolent. He's
a peaceful guy. He's not like Aleister Crowley, or I don't know how much Aleister Crowley was actually evil, but I do know that he pushed that he was the most evil man in the world, and I would say he was probably more of a sorcerer than Franz Barden was.
Well, he died, according to my friends in England, that he made a pentagram on a floor upstairs in some place he was living, and he was trying to do something to somebody. I don't know the whole story right now. This is 30 years ago telling me this, but what happened is, because of what he was conjuring, which was more like the elemental kingdom, to do bidding, which you cannot do to those beings. They don't appreciate that. They backfired on him because he was doing something to hurt someone else, and they just were tired of being manipulated. They launched him into the wall, so he got thrown into the wall with his head, and when they found him supposedly, this is what they said, he was in the wall hanging from, you know, like his head was in the wall and he was just dead hanging there.
Oh,
so they will do that. We got to be people be careful. I'm not a fan of anything dark magic or any of this magic stuff, because or focusing to that, because it draws these other entities, and people are trying to manipulate benevolent beings or other entities like elemental kingdom beings, which is giant like fairy beings and sylphs and all that, and trying to manipulate them. And I know people want to talk about the jinn or genies and all that stuff. That's from other countries. This is kind of manipulating that kind of energy. So you don't want to bring that energy in to manipulate, because again, these are not stupid people. They're beings, but they're not dumb. And when a person's trying to manipulate them to force them with some kind of sign or sigil or sounds to do their bidding, it will come back. They get the person back some way, sometime later. Something happens to that person. And so it's not good to play with that. It brings wrong entities around a soul to manipulate them too. So, but these are benevolent energy of light. And like one of the symbols there is, we have to use, one of is gratitude there. But when you do make these symbols and work with them, you have to praise Creator, be love and Creator, pure love and humility. Open your heart with that and be total humble. You must have gratitude in your heart, and you must also have the loving intention of what the symbol represents. Let's say it's gratitude. So you're going to have the feeling of gratitude and benevolence. And you might draw this symbol with light with your fingertips, which we describe how to do that with your fingertips, not one finger. And you focus on the gratitude symbol and you draw that symbol in the air around your apartment. You can draw it lightly on a wall or on your door or around a person that you feel grateful for, like your parents or something. You can do that symbol. It brings the essence of energy of gratitude and love. And you can bless things with gratitude and all. The praise Creator one is the far one on the left on top. That is like all things of Alleluia. It represents all that frequency of love. Alleluia, hallelujah, praise Yahweh, praise gratitude, praise Creator. Praise Creator, not praise gratitude. Praise Creator with gratitude and humbleness in your soul.
And we did that one at we haven't really even introduced them that
We haven't introduced much, but at some of our talks we do a few. We did the praise Creator with the sound of the music.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. But that's
from the canon,
Pachelbel's canon.
With the words Hallelujah.
With Hallelujah being sung to it by, what's her name?
Catherine Jenkins.
Catherine Jenkins. And she's singing, Alleluia, Alleluia, things like that. But it's always the same words, Hallelujah. So we had this class of people, and we all just drew that symbol. They just drew it in front of them with their eyes closed, singing in their mind Hallelujah. Or if they were singing Hallelujah, or thinking praise, Creator. And I drew it around the sides, the ceiling, the floor. I drew it all around. And within minutes, let's say here, the Holy Spirit energy came through the room 3 times with a wind and the feeling of love, pure love, euphoric love of God. And all the people who were there felt it. They opened their eyes. I had my eyes open, and I felt it hit me first, went right through me. I felt that. And it goes right around the whole room, and it came back to me 3 times in the room, and everybody says, "What was that?" It was love, And I said, "That's what is called the Holy Spirit presence." So this has happened a few times with people. Phyllis has had, by drawing the symbol for Blessed Mother or Blessed Holy Mother Mary or Universal Mary or Universal Mother. The symbol comes that we have for her. She appears in energy next to the person. It happened to our friend. And you spontaneously burst into kind of tears. You just have tears rolling down your face with the pure love that comes in. This is just a touch of some of this right now, but we've got many different ones. Brother, sister is in there. Three symbols for abundance, spiritual, material, and unlimited abundance. 3 different symbols for that. And you can draw those symbols,
Divine will. I mean, there's so many that we.
different ones. But these, when I saw them the first time, I was a child on the ship in my other form, but I was still in Earth consciousness, experiencing it from like firsthand. And I saw these symbols in 3D forms coming and moving like water, like liquid, like a stream down hallway. These hallways are huge, and their walls are beyond what we can think of. Like I say, let's say 25, 30 feet high or 50 feet high walls. And they were moving throughout the wall, going down the corridor, spiraling, rotating in different ways, in different light and color, some of them.
Three-dimensional.
And they were 3D formed, but then they'd come up and down like a dolphin going through the ocean, coming up for water, and you see the dolphin below the wave, and then she comes up again. These went down into energy frequency. You could see them still moving. Then they pop up in 3D form and come back down again. So I thought they were beautiful artwork. I thought it was just forms of art moving across to make everything pleasant. Because whenever you saw them, your heart sung, your soul felt high and light and love, and you just felt bliss from them. So one time, a couple of years back, I went over and touched one on the wall. I wanted to go to the wall. You could touch them. Feels like a buffered energy of light. Yet if you leaned into it, you would feel a wall presence. It's really kind of cool. But one of them came up, so I touched it. And within that presence was the Creator praising. You felt love, but euphoric bliss love from Creator. And I understood what the meanings meant totally. So I asked Sananda when I was there and the crew members, is this okay to talk about? Some things they tell me I can't, so I don't talk about it. And it took 40 years before I can give the activation, even though I knew about it in the 1970s. So, and before that, in like late 60s, but I couldn't tell anybody. So they said, no, people aren't ready for this information yet. You have to hold back until we tell you it's okay. So in 2008, they told me it was okay to tell more people now because more people had become more spiritual, more open, beginning to believing there was more. And it was funny because in the early mid-70s, I could tell people about 12 dimensions or about the spaceships and being there, and you can go on them. And it would be like, it went over their head. Like, what? What did you just say? I don't know what you're talking about. It took me a long time. When I met Phyllis in 78, I told her, and she just stayed open, and I gave the activation, and then she went to Venus with me. I remember being on Venus and seeing water sculptures there. So and the city of Retz, which exists on the higher frequency. So even though you visit Venus on another level, there's a whole city there of light. But if you're physically visiting Venus now, physically, you'll see some stuff underneath where they allow you to see. There's people also within the planet, just like on Mars, there's some people in the planet. So, in the moon. I'm rambling off on this, but the light symbols, they told me I was allowed to bring them back now. Yes, Sananda said that it is okay to let the people play with them if they want to draw them on your photograph you want. You have healing. We have all different kinds of energy. You can draw them.
More like think draw them.
Or think draw them.
Think draw them.
And project them in a thought form. Like you look at the symbol and you project it as light, radiating with light. Or you can draw them with your hands, your fingers in the air, or draw them on the ground or I draw them in the park on the ground with my finger in the sand. But you can do things like that. So we've had people practicing with these.
Well, what he said though was that it would change it changes the frequency of the Lipica web.
It helps change and work within the frequency of the Lipica webs, which is part of the whole frequencies of etheric, and all creation is within the Lipica webs. All creation of thought and Creator. Creator is beyond the Lipica webs. Let's just say it is all within Creator. So everything we are and think is that. So this activates within the Lipica webs and the Akashic energy frequencies where we draw it on a physical realm here. If we're drawing it in the air, it's within the air energy field of our aura, or still within the Lipica frequencies, because these symbols are of a high light frequency that it's okay now to bring it in, which will help transform some of this negative energy they told us. And Yeshua told me that it would help balance stuff for us. We just have to play with them and work with them. So people in, I think she was in Alaska, a really nice lady who emailed online. She said she painted them on little stones she had, and she set them in the woods in places just to be there as like crystals, you know, like you would do with a crystal, and on her own property. And people could do that if they want. Just don't paint and do things to other people's property unless they allow it. Don't do it. But do it to your own stuff.
And don't try to sell them.
No, don't sell them. They're not gifts like that. They're a gift. So we'll be putting them on our T-shirts and things someday.
Eventually.
So
awesome.
It's amazing. I'm not kidding. This is not made up stuff. You know, this is crazy stuff, but it's not made up. One of our friends, close friend of ours, who's also one of our space friends, who's experienced past times with me in other places because he recalled it all, told me. I was like, okay, yeah, that's it. We know each other like friends and brothers. He painted in, I don't know if he didn't paint it. He drew the Yahweh, praise Yahweh symbol. And he put it around his room, in his bedroom, including some of the love symbols, a heart symbol. We have different symbols. And then he went to go to work. That night he came back, and he said when he opened the door, he saw the glowing symbols in the energy. Very cool.
Oh, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, these are Franz Barden's, some of the sigils that he put together, and he was a very, I would call him a white mage because he was all about helping people. He had a Christian background, and just a really good person from the research that I've done. So his first book is called Initiation into Hermetics, and he passed away many years ago, but his first book that he came out with is called Initiation into Hermetics, and all that is a book that actually gives you practical applications on how to do things with your mind that most people can't because they'd rather watch Dancing with the Stars and football and basketball. So
and Kardashians and all that.
Yeah. Kim Kardashian's butt size, that's really important nowadays for people, to be a part of that. So
letting all people know that these are all some of the distractions that are on the planet at the time, including cell phones and computers and all these different things are distracting to the people to keep them from thinking of Creator and to be thinking about angels and listening to their subconscious, their intuition, and their angelic influences. Because if you have earphones on your head, you cannot hear when they're talking to you. Then you see people with cell phones with earphones all the time. And I try to tell them that this is part of it. Because I was given a vision of this in 1978 about all the things that were going to come through that were going to distract the souls. And when these distractions complete, the end is coming near, meaning the end of this kind of stuff where our friends in space will start showing up more to try to help people. And I saw things from before I even knew what it was. I didn't know what a cell phone was, or I thought they were tape recorder things they were holding in their hands and texting. I thought they were typing things on a tape recorder because I didn't know what it was. But I saw the earphones turn into no earphones, almost like things inside the ear where you didn't see lines on their head anymore. The boom boxes was on their arm, on top of their shoulder. That was the first ones they showed me. And when it happened in the 80s, we were like, wow, there it is. The guys are carrying a radio on their shoulder. Why would anybody do that? But there it was. Then they said heavy earphones like you would see in the radio shows. And then it became...
like the ones I'm wearing right now?
Probably.
Well, remember even the 60s?
No.
Yeah, right. No, so we got that. Then they went into smaller headphones, which was like Walkman, which we know now. But at that time, I had no idea what that was. And then they had this thing on their belt, and it was a Walkman. But I thought all these things they were holding were radios. It was some kind of a radio or telephone later on, because they seemed to talk into them, too. So we realized something more than a radio. There's something they're talking in, like Dick Tracy's watch. Right. So now, looking at this, they also showed the watch, which I think we have today now, the watch, right? That's a...
The Android phone
they
watch.
They showed that, and I thought of Dick Tracy when I saw that. One of the last things they showed all the small thing in their hand. I said, what are they doing? Why are they tapping the radio? It was a phone. Now we know what it is. But I told Phyllis all those things happening. Now, the last things that were going to happen were the things like the wrist phones and all that. And then there would be things in their ears. So they're going to have stuff that's also, besides spies having earphones in their ears, something else like that, which I feel is happening or embedded. There's going to be something embedded, and that scares me. I don't want people doing that. But it's like all these things, and that's it. But you see now, since that time in 1978, we've had more UFOs showing up more and more. They've always been saying they're going to come more and more. And they also, the reason they teleported me, and I've been teleported before, and this has happened to me before, and I've met them before in the fields, and I've been on their ships. And the thing is, they're showing us that do not fear, do not buy into the fear, do not fall for the conspiracies that are out there. All this stuff going on is set up to scare people into fear and worry, where they're distracted from Creator, distracted from love, distracted from helping. You see, kids are watching so much negative stuff, even on these games that they're playing, which they told us were going to happen back in the 80s and 70s. They said they're going to have things that are going to be programming the people, and they're going to be in the form of games. And this is a program that makes them not have...
Lose empathy.
Yeah, not have compassion or lose empathy, exactly. So they'll see people being blown up in like 3D, and it's going to look real, even though it's cartoons and art or illustration, so that they get numbed to the idea of that. So now when you have a person, this happens around New York, a person gets hit by a car or hit off their bike, or they're unconscious, they're bleeding, they're cut. You don't have anybody walking over right away to try to help them. You have them cell phone picture taking. What is this with humans, right? We go, what happened to them? What happened? They take the camera thing out on their phone first to film stuff before they even get involved in some way. And it's very disturbing to me and our crew friends on the other side, because they can't understand how souls can be like this. But they also understand mankind on Earth is a seeded entity with this manipulation of genetics too. So it becomes more animal man. Human is animal man. So where the races on the other side are on the higher frequencies are Adamic race. So they don't have that need to or urge to kill and see blood or kill things, or their own friends and own family of human. They don't, or beings of light, let's say. They're not trying to kill them. They always try to work around that.
Well, and also they don't need anything. The Etherians don't need any resources from 3D people.
Oh, that's true. That's true. I got so many things to hit on. I didn't realize. The beings that are working with the governments, the human-like beings that look people-like, they can walk on planet Earth and you wouldn't notice. And then there's beings that walk on planet Earth that are very pretty, and you would think they're models, and they might be 6 feet and 7 feet tall almost. You know, there's tall people like or models. They fit in to look like that look, so they can still walk on planet Earth and have an apartment that's been set up for them by the government. These beings are human-like people. They might not even be telepathic. They might just be like an Earth person. And then there's some that are highly telepathic, like Ingo has seen, and I have seen people like that. They're highly telepathic, so if you look at them, they know what you're thinking. And yet they're not all benevolent on the friend-to-friend basis. They don't trust humans. So Ingo was warned even when he was looking at one of these ETs, a female, when his friends were the guys that took him underground were there. They were not men in black. They were secret government that even the government didn't know was working. So they told him, don't look at her in the eyes, and don't think to her too long, because she can read you. And they're not always, wanting that. So you got to stand back from them. So you see, there are people on planet Earth, ETs, that are walking around in New York and California and places, and be careful. They can read you, and but they do have a resource they need, or something they're trading with, or trying to gain information. So they're giving the planet and different governments information on technology. Always technology that they don't really need. They're not going to give you the best technology, but they give Earth enough technology to maybe get laser treatments and laser light and all that in your eye. All these were gifts from these beings. But they always need some resource. Either it's water, foods, minerals, metals. They need things for their different things on their planet systems. Now, the Etherian types and the high ET realm beings from the 7th and up, they don't need any resource on a physical planet. They're only caring about our spiritual progression and how we handle it here and how we can reach up. And again, I'm going to tell you, Most ETs who come to people, the beings that come to work with them, either astrally or etherically or high densities, high levels of light densities, where a being materialize with them in some way and talk with them and then dematerialize. They all say they come to the people that they know or work with or have set up things before. So they always have said we come to our own. And how do you make yourself one of their own? Is by thinking up to them in the highest of light, like the angelic realms and of light. And when you open up that energy frequency of light and send out the love, and I know there's people out there, you're going, can I do this? Yes, you can. But you got to be benevolent in your heart. It's best to be detoxed if you can. Detox your physical frequency body so that it gets into a higher frequency. That means no heavy-duty drugs, no drinking of alcohol of a high level. If you do it moderately, a little bit of wine is okay. A little bit of beer is okay, but nothing overdosing.
No pornography.
No, I know men have a difficult thing with pornography online because I know a lot of men, and you have to try to curb that energy where it becomes an addiction. Anything that gets into addiction mode is now becoming lower because the beings of the lower come towards that, like succubi. So you got lower entities towards heavy alcoholism, drug usage. And that doesn't mean heart medicine. That's not the kind of drug usage they're talking about. They mean ayahuasca, these different types of drugs, peyote, that work with the energy field of the person, but doesn't always bring them into a high frequency. It brings them into a frequency around the planet where they meet up with either entities like like astral beings, physical being like that have a life here and now are dead. They're there as maybe a Native American, maybe, because sometimes you have masters and friends that work with you, but they also don't always work on the higher realms. They might be just on certain levels of the heaven realms, so they can only take you so far. And
we think it's a bad idea to use those types of drugs
you don't want to be doing things that initiate a frequency discharge that's too soon for the body to handle. And that's why our space friends and the masters have always told me on the other side. I've met Cthulhu, Master Cthulhu, who was St. Francis. I've met him physically. Now they tell you that, and he dematerializes, of course, when he walks out the door. So the thing is, they tell you it's best to have things happen naturally to the physical body, for these awakenings to occur naturally, Kundalini to start off naturally, not take certain types of yoga or certain types of exercises or drugs to trigger a Kundalini in prematurely, because that's very dangerous. Now, the best way naturally is meditation, prayer, focusing on light, giving love to Creator. Most of all, it's about Creator, your infinite light, the infinite one. And then focusing to the being known as Sananda Yoshua, Mary, even the Buddhic levels have the Buddhic beings. We have Kuan Yin, and some even other teachers.
Oh, well, saints are
different
fine
teachers
too.
And saints. Different saints. Yogananda, he's a good friend on the other side. Yogananda in India is a saint. Yogananda was incorrupt, like the incorruptible saints. So I don't know right now in California if he's corrupt now, but it doesn't matter. When they did open the tomb, he was not corrupt a year later, and that's in California. So this is how Creator works with everybody. And in space, the main thing I want people to know, the beings and our friends out there, there's no religions in space. It's all oneness with Creator. It's oneness and understanding of who we are and what we are a part of. And we are not God. We are aspects of the Creator, Infinite One, in tiny forms of light. So we all have the potentials to be God-like, but we're not Creator. So when a soul starts thinking they're Creator and better than Creator, watch out. That's when the vanity hits, and then they fall again. They go down to lower frequencies because this is what goes on. Now you're on the Yod Y shape. That spaceship, when I was called to the window, I did a meditation prayer with the words Adonai Basu, Adonai Basu Varagas, Om Sabasimanorm Nisanak Bushumak Tulinik Tana. Shinekatakatakathumi, Shinekatakatakathumi, Shinekatakatakathumi. These are the words the space people gave to me And those are some of the words. I have other words I use, but I don't always share those other special words that I utilize. But because I think they're premature for certain souls. But if people are with me, I can know who to share certain sounds with. But these are the words they said will bring in the benevolent energy sends up a benevolent thought form of energy, along with the prayers, the Our Father or the Lord's Prayer, the Hail Marys. I say all these prayers. I was raised Catholic, but I saw before Jesus, Yeshua, Sananda, before I was understanding who he was on this level, until my grandmother told me who he was. And I told her, I know him where I come from home, a different name, and that was Sananda. But the thing is he would always visit me out of body. I would go out, and he also materialized here on a Christmas Eve in the apartment as a 12-year-old young Yehoshua, and he brought in the flowers, the smells of essence, and he told me everything I needed to know at the time, and then kissed me and dematerialized, hugged and kissed me. And he came to help with energy I was going through at the time. But they took the form of the Y. This ship was materialized in the sky. It's for Yehoshua, Yahweh. Yahweh is the name of the creator we use on the spaceships. So we can call to Yahweh. It has to sound like Yahweh because it's breath and creation of light. So Yahweh is breath. And Yehoshua is Yahweh who saves. It's like saved by Yahweh, Yehoshua. Yeshua is a short version of Yehoshua. So, which Jesus is a translation in Greek, ancient Greek. So we use Yehoshua or Yehoshua and Yeshua and Yahweh. So they told me that was in honor of Yehoshua, Yahweh, that Y symbol in gold, because they had given us the pictograms and those other pictures with the heart. And we said to them one day out in the field, and I said, what are you going to do now? Send us letters? And we spell alphabetical things now? We were kidding around. And then when this Y showed up, it just materialized when they told me to look to the left. And I looked out the window up to the left, and this shining object sitting there all of a sudden became a Y in the sky. So I started taking I looked at binoculars, of course, first. And of course, it's not a balloon. Everybody was going, it's a balloon. It could be a balloon. No, it's not. It was huge. It was gigantic, but it had no threads of any kind of things or seams on it. It had a shape like this. And of course, the crew is in there and I can hear them. So I just like to tell people, no, it's not. But this shape brings love with it when you look at it on the video. And you can feel love come from it. So Phyllis made a video of YouTube. And I tried so hard to make the voice for it. A couple of times, I had to keep shutting it off because I couldn't talk. I'd choke up until I finally got it out. And when it left...
I haven't put it on that page yet.
Oh, it's not there. It was just in the page you saw it. It was...
Yeah, there's the YouTube.
The YouTube there. You can click on that. That's the YouTube. I don't know if it takes it to it on a page share.
I don't know.
The way that it's set up is I'd have to shut it off and reopen it and re-record it. So...
Oh, okay.
Okay, people can see that's where you'll find it right now. Phyllis didn't upload it to the page. But at the end, when it leaves, it sits over, it moves very slowly and hovers over a building. We didn't take a picture of the building it was hovering over, but then it just shuts off. It made 3 flashes of white light. That's our theme. 3 is our meaning with my crew and friends. We do 3s and 12s and 11s and things. But when they do things in 3s for me, that's the sign they're on their way or they're leaving. So they did 3 shots of light, choo, 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 and all of a sudden, poof, they were gone. I was sitting there with the camera waiting to take another picture, and there was nothing there. And Phyllis was looking at it with another camera, binoculars.
I couldn't.
She said, "They're not there, are they?" I said, "No, they just shut off."
It just looked like a brilliant white light to me.
Yeah.
I couldn't.
I knew they flashed 3 times.
I had
That's
a little
we're
camera.
leaving.
I couldn't get anything.
Oh. Wow, you just did that. Everybody's watching this now. Of course, there's sound, but... Oh, it doesn't get the sound. You don't hear the sound with that, I guess.
And then there's an
Oh,
overdub.
it sounds off now. That's when I stopped it. Phil stopped to show the cross as a symbol from the Christ group. So we don't hear a sound,
Okay.
or the sound is off, but maybe
Yeah, it looks like this. Can you hear the sound now?
No.
no.
Okay, at least we've got some video on it. That's some pretty
Yeah.
cool footage, and I just want to let our listeners know. Make sure to check out Marc's YouTube channel. It looks like there's two of them. You've got Marc Brinkerhoff, and then also, what's your other YouTube channel, Marc?
I don't think you have another one.
Oh,
Okay,
just
that is your YouTube channel then. That's it.
intergalacticmission.com.
No,
and it's
no,
Marc
no.
Brinkerhoff.
It's Marc Brinkerhoff. That's the only one that I.
Oh, that's it. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
And then we've
Marc-
got intergalacticmission.com for your website.
Right.
Or intergalacticmission.com. And do you have another website as well?
MarcBrinkerhoff.com is animal art.
And
Okay.
and we're not really providing the fairy site yet, even though we do have one, and he has photographs of fairies. But because I think it's confusing people. Once we get the first books out for the UFOs, then we'll move into that next level of teaching, because it just confuses people that are into UFOs when you start to bring up the elemental kingdom.
It does confuse them, but it is part of.
So we're kind of holding that back at this point.
Yeah, it is.
Although he's got volumes on that. I mean, the people have to understand why Marc is the way he is because he came in without the veil. So he just automatically, and it didn't make for an easy life.
No. I was a little kid seeing the Nature Kingdom, and I was on the field sky watching and asking for the crew and say hi, and I feel energy behind me, so I assumed it was an angel. I turn around, it was Pan, gigantic, 20 feet tall, with angels and fairies and elves of the field near him, and animals like we'll say, like Pegasus, flying animal, all these things were there, and telepathically talked with me, and he asked me to paint his children, and I realized he meant the Nature Kingdom. So I started drawing and illustrating and painting them the way I've seen them here as well in the apartment. And psychics have come to the apartment and seen the fairies, and they come over to them. So it's a lot of things happening.
So the reality is, just to
Sticking with the UFOs for now.
No, but the reality is all of the mythology that people, think is mythological, those are real. They're real, but they're just not real on this frequency.
Came from somewhere. And absolutely, and we talked to Ray here, Ray Kershaw, I think is his last name. I might have pronounced that off a little bit, but he's a longtime contactee, and he says he's made contact with all sorts of different types of extraterrestrials, fairies, large beings. He even talks about these elephant people that have an elephant head and a human body. And then the interesting thing was, I talked to somebody else that actually correlated with what he said and said, yeah, I've met them too. And it's just really fascinating. So
talking Ganesha.
There you go. The ancient India god. Yeah. Wow.
And there's also cat-like people. So when we saw Avatar, the movie, Phil's to see my drawings of the cat beings. They're human-like us, human-looking. Not human. They're not human, but they're humanoid-looking. Some have a tail.
Okay, let me ask you a question real quick if I can, because you brought that up, and I just don't want to forget about it, because the Phoenix Lights that came by back in the 90s, Dick Allgaier and Daz Smith from the Farsight Institute, some of the best remote viewers in the world, did a remote viewing session on the Phoenix Lights, and they saw the beings in the craft, and they talked about how they were tall, Nordic-looking, they were very sophisticated, and they moved. Everything that they did had a reason for it. Every single movement and action, they had a specific purpose and were in harmony with one another. But he also talked about how he sensed that their faces kind of like shape-shifted from a lion face back to a humanoid face, and there were workers underneath them as well.
Wow.
Yeah, that would have been part of the those beings also. I've seen these types. They work with Ashtar's crews as well as the alliance groups. They're all benevolent people. They're all good people. Some people might even call them Palladians or types of people like that. And remember, Palladians are not a Palladian being or a person saying they're Palladian would be saying, look, I come from that area you call Pleiades. The place they're coming from is another star system, totally not called Pleiades at all. But because we're on Earth and they want to help us with understanding where they come from, like the Betty Hill's little ET friends told her they come from this direction. Mm-hmm. Well, they finally found the star system was called Zeta Reticuli. Mm-hmm. And I want people to understand something. I know this is kind of strange. I knew Betty for a while before she died, and I was friends with her in 1976.
We interviewed her great niece, Catherine Martin. Is that her name? Martine?
Yeah, we knew her. we met her mother and Betty's sister, and also Barney's sister and her grandchildren, let's say, or nieces and nephews, something like this. And Betty, I used to ask Betty this. See, the beings that she met were not grays like people want to think today. They are a species, but there's different species or beings that are similar looking. But go back to the old illustrations Betty and Barney drew. They had little caps on their heads, some of them. They didn't have these gigantic, large heads. And they also had eyes with irises. And 5 foot tall was the one she was talking with. And the other that she called the leader.
What about the mantis being that her husband saw?
Those are another group of beings. And I've met a few of those, but they're benevolent. They're very interested in, they love, they have a loving energy. They're just not, they're frightening looking to some people, but not to me. I've seen some. I drew some. In the hidden hand, you'll see a drawing of one that I drew, but the illustrator copied my illustration, so it's a different looking. He changed it a little.
He made it look scary. But
he made it look scary.
Marc's doesn't look
you should
scary.
Post mine back again
No,
someday.
but the reason I keep the drawings off the website.
No, we just have to put on who they are. They're people I've met. They're not my family.
Yeah, but
they're people I know.
The reason I took off the strange-looking aliens off of Marc's website under extraterrestrials is because when people want to interview them, they want to use the most sensational-looking alien instead of using the ones that are actually his family. So I just took them down because I thought, yeah, I'll put them in a book.
They posted a reptilian humanoid
we'll
one,
put them in a book.
who's also a very benevolent, loving being and a master on those levels. And
so you've met reptilian beings as well?
Yes, and they're not evil. I know there's some on planet Earth that probably are, but not the ones I've met. The ones I meet are all like master teacher friendly beings on these higher level frequencies, like 5th and up. So I've met nice ones, let's say, and there are gray beings out there that are benevolent, that care, and they actually care. And I've met some people, they don't talk English, the guys that I met through a friend of ours, and they're in, I think they're in Colombia. I don't know, gee, where they are. Phyllis. She just stepped away. Where did those men come from that we met with Maria? Were they Colombian?
I think it was Colombian. I'm pretty sure it was Colombian.
They had an encounter with some people. They didn't get close to them because the beings wouldn't come too close. But one of them came out of a ship that was a gray-like being and telepathically talked with them and just said, please let everybody know we're not all bad. We're trying to help. There's some good ones like us too. So we were programming all about evil this and evil gray and abduction that and probe this. But there's other ones that are very spiritual beings, but you don't see them too much. And the ones that the military allowed to come in were 1950s, early 50s, were not of the benevolent type. They were the ones who wanted resources from Earth and wanted to have a base here on the planet, and we allowed that. But the benevolent ETs, known as the Etherians, like people like from Ashtar's crew, those kind of people, they met with the people here first. And they are the ones who took Eisenhower for a ride on the ship and was preset with three spaceships. They showed demonstrations of how they can make the ship look large and shrink up in front of you. These are all dimensional play with their morphing effects. And they're the ones who warned, don't mix or don't do anything with these other groups that comes to you. They are not of the good. They will trick you. But the government went with them, and then you see what happened. They allowed them to, let's say, abduct a person, but don't let them remember, and you can learn about the human, and that's what was allowed. But only so many they wanted, only like 1,000, let's say. But what happened is thousands were taken. People were taken all over the place because there was no way to stop them. And the ETs, the good ETs, said, you can make any contract you want with these people, but they will break the contracts. They will not pay attention. They will not follow it. And they have not followed their contracts. So an actual, let's say a little battle occurred. that my ET friends and my crew told me these information because I was out there. I found out this information back in the mid 70s, late 70s, or in early 80s about the battle that was going on, different things were happening with the underground because they were not listening to Earth. You know, Earth wanted them to do certain things and not do this or that, but they were breaking the rules and going against it. And so we had to threaten them to be cast out of here. And they gave more technology on lasers and things. But they did supposedly work out some kind of deal where they would not abduct people as much as they ever did before. I thought that it's kind of stopped. But I still think people get taken in different ways through out-of-body travel through a different way with their energy field by these other beings. So we have to program good only, benevolent only. You can put around your energy field working with Sananda, working with the Christ group energy field. You want to be working with the good benevolent beings because they will help us with these types of protection. But if a person doesn't believe, it doesn't help that much. Now, one of our friends who's passed on to the other side was being abducted by the Greys. She had a fetus removed and everything. And when she would wake up, she had not only with her nightgown reversed and upside down in different ways on her body, or she had a cut on her head or on her back, which no way she could have put on her back. And it was sealed with a strange gel.
Bud Hopkins used to work with
Bud Hopkins used to work with her. I gave Bud Hopkins her name and back in those days. And he worked with her, and she was in some of his little movies as clips, you know, just the wounds or things she had on her. But she passed away a couple of years ago, married one of our friends. She was being harassed by these beings, and they would come over a house. She was in somebody's house, let's say, and a blue beam of light was shot down into the yard. And she told the people in the house, don't go near the window, don't look at that beam. And people wanted to go outside because the feeling was, oh, come on out. Telepathically, you got a feeling of, come on out, we won't hurt you. But that blue energy beam is the one that freezes people. And then they take them up. So she told no one to go near it. And she told us this story because the house they were at, the son was a pilot. And he was driving home from North Carolina airport somewhere. And he was driving in the backwoods to get to the house. And when he was coming there, he saw a flying saucer spaceship over the house. And he was wondering what the heck is happening to the house. But then it took off. And so when he came into the house, he was able to verify what he had seen over the house from the backwoods in the hills in that area. So they're not always, they tell you, a lot of times they'll tell you, we come because you allowed us to, or you said it was okay before you came to take a life on the planet. But you see, they're so smart, they can now manipulate that information because they know spiritual people and will say, well, you chose to come in and you set up this before you got here. Now, in some cases, a soul did. But I feel what I've heard is they've been using that information that others have done to use on anybody they can manipulate to take them out of body or, you know, take them while they're asleep into the ship, which they can levitate them right through a wall. So this has been happening. And the people will say to them, why are you picking on me? What are you doing? And they say, well, you allowed it or you okayed it. But you see, sometimes it's a lie. And our friends in the high places are upset with that information because they want people to know, not always is this true. It's not something you always asked for. They just are manipulating it that way to make some people believe it. So we want people to understand, if you have the cross and the circle, surround yourself with that energy, with that around your aura energy field. Put the symbol around your house. Make sure you're calling to Creator. And have that love within. And I'm telling you, Yehoshua, known as Jesus, is who he says he is, was who he says he was. He lives now as he lived then. He can materialize in your room, talk to you. He can sit on a chair with you and talk to you like Ashtar or any of these other people can. But Yehoshua is who he says he is. And with his name, you are protected. Because I've met people in the 60s and late 70s and early 70s who had met or knew people who had met people in England that had an encounter with some ETs that were not of the human-looking like type, and the ETs were coming towards these guys, and they were being threatened by their energy. And the two of them were in the fields in England, and they turned to them, and they were scared, but they started calling out, "Jesus Christ, save us. Jesus, help us. Jesus, save us." And the ETs suddenly stopped walking towards them. And I want people to understand this is true. So the men said to these ETs, "You know who we're talking about?" And they shook their head, yes. And they said, "Well, you better get out of here, because we're calling on him and angels too." And the ETs turned and left and went back to their ship. So we got to understand, with the power of the word, of the name, Yehoshua, Jesus, the name is powerful and has an energy that is with it. And with that name, you can heal and create miracles. And with that name comes the presence of Creator, and Yeshua comes in. I've never had a problem with a negative entity. I met a negative ET, but I've met evil entities in haunted houses and used the word and certain words that are ancient to get rid of these beings, and they actually dematerialize and leave, and the house is cleansed. So I've given that information to people who have hauntings, and they told me it worked. But I feel this is important for people to know. My crew, the crew that we're with and everything, we are understanding we have to bring this information in about Yehoshua, Jesus, Sananda. They have to understand he is a real being, and he is real, and he is who he says he is, and he has that power. And so they don't want us to feel fear, to know that Jesus has told me as a child, "Let your thoughts be on me, and no harm will befall you." And he's also said, "Let your last thoughts be on me, and no harm will befall you." So these are two ways he said it to me. So one time I was slipping on some steps that we have in front of our building in the rain, and had heavy things in both of my hands, like heavy weights of buttons in a button machine and making things. And I slipped, and I was heading for the stairs with my head to be dead. My feet went up before me, and I should have cracked my skull open on the 3 cement stairs. But as this happened, I called out, "Jesus, angels, help me now." And instantly, on both sides of my body, I was caught in the hands of my angels. On my shoulder blades, on both shoulder blades, and both of my thighs on both sides of my body. So I had 2 sets of hands on both sides of my body, big hands, you could feel. And they levitated me over to the front of my building's door, which is like 15 feet from the stairs. Levitated me in that same position with light weightlessness. I had no weight in the things I was carrying. And all I could feel was the euphoric bliss of Creator, of Christ, of love. And I kept saying, "Thank you, I love you. Thank you, I love you." It's all that could come out of my mouth. "Thank you, I love you." And when he placed me on the ground gently, I was on my back and my hips, legs up in the air in a position they put me in. I slowly sat up, thanking them. And then I saw what had happened, how I should have been dead. I was euphoric bliss for a whole day the next day. This is how I've been rescued from things when I called out and head-on collisions and all these kind of things on ice and snow and ice into a tree. And I should have been broken into a car and crashed into a tree, and I called out, "Jesus, angels, help me now." And even the people in the car with me would experience it. So he wants us to know this. They want us to know this. You can be protected instantly. Just remember to call out when that fear sets in. When you're heading for something where the car's out of control, call out, and the energy comes. And usually when I call out, his face flashes in front of me and my eyes, and then love enters and everything. I'm talking a lot. Phyllis, did you say something? I'm rambling. I'm sorry, but this is
an awesome testimony. It really is, and I appreciate every word that you've given us, Mark. I mean, you've certainly brought a lot of very good information to the table. I can tell you're passionate. I know that our audience has just been enthralled. So,
yeah, here's another one that's fun. Before I met Phyllis, I was visiting a friend of mine who I also visited out of body to his house, and he saw me. And he said, "Mark, did you visit me? Because I wasn't asleep." I said, "Yeah, I mark the third eye forehead with a little symbol we do on the ship that that marks them to come to the spaceship on the high roams." Now I know people are going to email me that one, but I went to his house and I'd never been there before, and I'd never met him. I'd only known him on a telephone because he was my friend's cousin. My cousin's friend, I mean. So I went to see his house. All he did is gave me his name and where he lived in the area. So I called to go there, and I went in my other form. To me, I was laying on the bed, mentally projecting out of body, even though it's like today we call it remote viewing, I guess. But I was calling it mind projection. I call it mind astral traveling with the mind, not falling asleep, but just going there through mind. And I asked to be taken to the spot, and I go. I went into his house through a wall to his room, and I saw him laying on a bed on his left side. So I thought he was asleep, because it was after 1 o'clock in the morning or so. And I thought, oh, he must be asleep, because he was saying he was going to go to bed. And I went over to him, and I'm in my other form as my over self, higher part. So I'm over 7 feet tall, and I bent down to mark his little forehead with my fingers. And I use my third finger, forefinger, middle, and thumb. So it's your middle finger, forefinger, and thumb. That's what I use, because that's how I'm taught to do this with the crew. We did this for the people. And I marked a certain marking on his third eye. And I don't touch him. I just mark above him on his physical body. I'm marking above him in the etherical level. So you don't touch a person when you're out of body like that. You'll leave a bruise on their body. So I was like 2-3 inches from his forehead, let's say, and I marked him. Then I saw him moving, and I thought his eyes twitched. So I was done. I backed up with light and love, and I did the blessing, which is the circle and the cross, away from his body as I went away. And I turned around and left the room and went back out the wall outside to the yard and took off to the ship, teleporting that way through thought. You just leave through thought. So that was it. And then I went back to my body on the bed and woke up myself and looked at the clock, and it was probably about 3 o'clock, because then I was going to go out sky watching into the fields. So Ralph calls me the next day, and he says, "Did you come over last night to do that thing on my forehead?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "You were going to be taken to the ship last night." Well, he says, "Mark, I was not asleep. I couldn't fall asleep, but I was laying there, and I felt some energy enter the room. And I thought, oh, that's nice. It feels pleasant. It was friendly." And he said, then I felt somebody was near me, and I felt tickling on my forehead from the energy. And I tried to open my eyes a little bit. I said, "Oh my gosh, that's when I saw you. I thought you were twitching your eyes." He says, "Yeah, but what I did is I opened them a little in a squint, very faintly, so I can see if somebody was there." And he said, "I saw a tall being in a spacesuit in a transparent form. Like I could see you, but I'd see through you, but see you." And I said, "You saw me?" He described me. He said, "You had long hair and you big eyes and the ET look at myself." So he said, "You smiled and you did a design or something in the air, and then you turned around and you walked away and went through the wall." And I said, "Oh, I did the circle and cross projection." He couldn't tell what I was drawing in the air because I drew it very fast. And then when I finally went over to meet him physically in his body, meet him like the next night, I went over to his house. I brought my book with me that showed the drawings and illustrations of the ET friends and all. And he pointed directly at me. He says, "This is what I saw in the spacesuit with that long hair and all that love you guys have. That loving energy was all around." But he's the second person, or actually third, that saw me and got to see me, but recognized who it was. Another lady I did that with, I went to a hospital. I never met her. I was going to pick her up the next day because I was doing a friend a favor. And she was in the hospital for something like diabetic thing. She was there, so she was leaving the next day. So I talked to her on the phone, and she said, "Oh, can you come over? Would you send me healing?" I said, Sure, we'll come over and send loving light at you." Well, I go over probably around 12 midnight our time, because I went over to do that before I was going to go sky watching up in the fields. So I went over and laid on the bed, projected to her room in the hospital in Pics at the time. I had never been there before, and I don't know what she looks like. And so I went there and stood at the end of her bed and did this energy, holding my hands up, sending loving, healing energy of light to her through Christ, through Yeshua, Creator. And I saw her twitch her head. And we don't want to disturb the soul, so you kind of back up, right? So, okay, maybe she's waking up. And then I just decided that's all. I'll just leave from here. And next day when I talked to her, she said, did you come over with energy? I said, yeah, I did. She said, well, I was laying there with my eyes closed. I wasn't asleep, but I was laying there with the light on because I saw the light was on. I was confused by that, when that was on. And she said, but then I felt somebody at the end of the bed. So I turned to look, and I opened my eyes up. I could see a giant, tall being over 7 feet tall standing at the end of my bed in a spacesuit with their hands out sending me love and smiling. I said, oh my gosh, you saw me? So when I got to her in the hospital, I brought my portfolio and I had the sketches. And she immediately goes, that's the person that was at the end of my bed. And it was my own self-portrait. So she goes, I said, well, yeah. So she goes, can I go out to the ships with you? And I said, yeah, we'll come for you. We'll do that. So she remembered. And she's now probably passed on because she was back then in her late 70s, and that's 1976, 77. Mm-hmm. I don't know if she's passed on. She moved away, but her name was Winnie. But her friend has passed on too. So, but that was two people plus my friend Georgia, who's on the other side. She remembered being out of body with me when we took her. And I told her to program herself, and she did. And while we were out there, she was meeting an ET who teach her a different type of being, looks a little different than a human, beautiful beings. And he's a master teacher, so she wanted to learn something on one of the classrooms on the Arcvanas. So I took her over to him, and he opens the door. The door opens like Star Trek, goes open like that. And he's standing there, like welcoming her in. And she's all excited. And then I said, Georgia, look at me. Look at my eyes. And I'm about 7 feet, I guess, right? So she's looking up, and she goes, yes. I said, look at my eyes and say, I will remember. I will remember. I will remember when I wake up. I will remember everything I see, smell, taste, feel, and touch. I will recall everything when I wake up. Say it to yourself 3 times. She says, I'll remember. Don't worry. I'll remember. I said, no. Say it the way we just said. Look at me in the eyes. I'm programming you. Remember this. Remember this. I will remember. So she did it. And she says, okay, I've done it. And I said, okay, now go to your class and have fun. So after that, I left and went to work on the ship. Next morning, she calls me and she goes, Mark, oh my gosh, I remember everything. You stopped me. You told me to look in your eyes and remember. And I said, yeah. She goes, well, I remembered everything, including the bridge we walked over in the ship with the stream of water. And I should tell people there's lots of things you wouldn't expect on a spaceship. Don't think Star Trek when you come to our ships. You have to think planet ship.
Holodeck.
Holodecks beyond. It's like beyond. I couldn't even explain to my dad in the 50s when I saw the ETs and when they took me on the ship and they showed me 3-dimensional dinosaur, a baby brontosaur, or what we call apatosaurus now. And I walked around it. I touched it. I was 5 years old. And it was reacting to me like a dog would react to you petting it, and it would look at you. And I understood it was not a real dinosaur, but it looked and acted like a real dinosaur. And they telepathically told me, it is basically real right now, but it's not a real dinosaur. But it's manufactured actually from actual dinosaurs, so it actually responds like one. And so when I told my father at that age, I said it was a picture, but it was real, and I could walk around it and touch it. And as the things that was 1958. Now, we didn't have holodecks, we didn't have holograms or any of that. But as time went on, in 1978, Phyllis had a hologram of a little statue fairy in a medallion. So I took that to my father to show him, this is a holograph, but look at it in there. You could see like you round it a little bit. I said, this is close to what I saw on the spaceship, except mine was 3-dimensional and I could touch it. So when Star Trek finally came out, right, with the holodeck in the 1980s and all that, I was able to tell him that is as close as it'll come to the actual walking around this being, this little ET being or a dinosaur, whatever you saw, they could project these things. And this is how they form communication with people who are not understanding telepathy sometimes. They just don't understand, or it's easier for them to understand an actual moving picture. So they'll show these diagrams of actual beings or ET beings from other places to show, like we would today, or Star Trek might, a holographic image of an extraterrestrial in 3D form, making a circle, let's say, and you'll say this is what that person being looks like on that planet system. So then that was the best I could do at that time. I could only say a photograph that was 3D, I could walk around and touch at that time as a child. And this is what they do. So I went off on that for some reason. And I guess it's to say that these ETs that also manipulate people with abductions, we want to program not this energy around them. We want them to understand that they can be protected because their fear calls that type of stuff in. And when people had lectures in the past used to ask me questions about them in the 80s, I'd say just don't concentrate or think of these beings, because by thinking of them, you draw that energy towards you. The same as with fear, negativity. Oh, you're looking at the Repeaters book, which Tim Beckley created. That was just below there, the Repeaters.
Okay.
On the back cover is my illustration, my drawing, my UFO in the center. The reddish-orange one in the top three, center. That's an ET silhouette at a window of a portal. Now that's 1970s. It's actually flipped. It should be the opposite, reversed, but it doesn't matter. The actual negative is reversed, but.
Okay.
So I'm in the book with those images and different stories. I've seen UFOs that look like Adamski's UFOs physically appeared, crystal ships. They look like crystal. They're not the German-looking type of clunky-looking thing, but they're a crystalline ship, very beautiful. And they have orbs at the bottom that are used for balancing negative frequencies or working with the static energy of the field ship. You've seen the types that look like the one next to it, like orange, red, yellow. They morph into different shapes and color. And the plasma fields around them like that, or ionic energy field, they call it. We have so many different types of ships that are visiting. And many are ancient ships, and they're just still going because they're on those higher dimensions. Oh, we tried to unplug it.
Oh, we never unplugged.
Oh, that sounds like an old phone.
It is. I'm so sorry. When I do Skype, I unplug the phones, and I totally forgot today because when we were having trouble getting on I was not paying attention to that.
Oh, no problem.
So I was still talking. So I was still talking to Phyllis. She was at work. But
I gotta say, Marc, this has been just great to speak with you. I really appreciate you coming on the show with us, and it's been nice to talk with Phyllis as well. Would definitely like to have you, on the show again sometime, and maybe we could talk about the elemental type and also some more of the experiences you had. This has been great.
Oh my gosh, it's been so many experiences you wouldn't believe. I'm into cryptozoology because I've had enough cryptozoology things like Bigfoot, creatures in the lake, things I've seen. I mean, beyond, like, unbelievable. If you're into cryptozoology, whoa.
Oh, yeah. We could do a whole show on that. That'd be great.
Oh, we saw Bigfoot so close up, like within 5 feet, because we were in our car. And we were driving down to North Carolina late at night, probably around the Virginia area where there was a lot of woods. And we saw this thing blocking the sign, the big green reflector sign. And we said, what are they, leaving the trees blocking the signs like that, right? So we're getting closer. We realize this is not a tree. We can't see through its leaves. It's like getting denser. And then Phyllis was driving. We pulled over to the passenger side, and I was there at the passenger window with my eyes like, my hands right up to the window. Because as it was getting closer, you could see it was something like a bear or a Bigfoot. And a bear wouldn't just stand there. And it was way too big. So as we got closer and closer, we saw it was getting to be like 8 feet tall. And it was off the road, just off the road where your headlights wouldn't hit it. But if you pulled off the road, there wasn't an area to really pull off except 3 feet. So a car wouldn't be able to pull over, except there was a sloping grass. This thing was standing in the slope, and it was already 7 feet sticking out from where it was. So when we pulled over close, Phyllis slowed the car down, and we went by. Our car at that time was a Grand Marquis. It had lights in the center where your doors are. So it had these
runner lights,
11-inch long runner lights that are dim white, and also lights near the front and back. So as it passed in front of the creature, the being, let's say, the beautiful being, the light of the car lit it. enough that we could see it in the semi-dark. You could see its features, and its eyes were so benevolent. Telepathically, I said to it, "We love you." And I said telepathically, "Stay safe." And it followed its eyes with me, and its mouth was just a beautiful, big mouth. They have long mouth and a small little nose, like a Santa Claus nose, almost like a little button nose, but it's not like a monkey or not like a gorilla or anything. It was humanoid. It had human features in its eyes and nose, and the fur was not right next to its eyes in any way. It seemed to come around the cheekbones like a guy having a beard, you know? But it was all this smooth hair, and the hair around its head was like 4 inches long because I could see it in the light. And the back, it was like no neck, just a head, big giant shoulders.
Right.
We were like, whoa! Hands were straight down, but you couldn't see below the waist because it went off to the slope. It was in the grass on the slope. So what we saw was belly button up, I guess you'd say, of the tummy. But again, it was covered in this hair, like dark brown.
It freaked me out.
Black. But it was benevolent looking. And, it could have reached over to the car. That's how close we were. But I got to see the details, and I'm going to draw that being someday. And but I know they're telepathic, so we've heard them. We went with a Skywatch with our investigators in 1979 to the fields in New Jersey where Wanakee Reservoir. The UFOs came, but before that happened, we were in the woods, 1 a.m, and probably an hour in, when we heard the weirdest call from the woods far, far away. And we all know animals in the woods upstate. And the people with us, one of the investigators from New Jersey, policeman like that, he knew New Jersey animals because he knew about hunting and all that stuff in the woods. We all knew that this was not something that we've ever heard before. And all of us went, Bigfoot. But it made your hair stand up.
It was like a haunting howl.
It was a wailing howl, yeah.
A wailing
It was,
howl.
if I can imitate it, it was like,
not a bear.
Not a bear, not an animal, but it was a sound. And that would say like towards, let's say, let's pretend east or no, west, let's say. And then from behind us, way far away in the woods, came an answering wail, exactly the same way. And we all like, whoa.
So we immediately moved the Kentucky Fried Chicken
that the investigators brought.
away
we
from
put
the
bucket out.
Get my Kentucky Fried Chicken.
We know those Bigfoot like chicken. We know they love chicken. They like pig. They like, I don't know what else they'll eat, but I know they eat fruit and berries and all those things.
I could let him go.
But anyway,
they don't like New Yorkers.
I don't know. we were loving it though. And then I was up in Connecticut about a year ago or so, and I heard the one banging on boulders, banging on a boulder at 3 in the morning, hitting boulders with a pattern, boom, boom, 3 times, space once, then waited 20 seconds, at least 20 seconds. Then it started all again with a big boulder. So it wasn't like tapping a rock. It was like boom with an echo into the deep woods, upstate New York, up in Connecticut. So I knew there was a Bigfoot out there because I heard all these other sounds, but we'll save that for another time. That was fun.
Well, then we did research it the next day and say, do
Bigfoots bang on big boulders?
Are they known to bang boulders together?
And they bang stones and trees and rocks and big boulders.
Nice.
So you're way up in the deep woods someplace, banging a giant boulder on a boulder, those big outcropping stones, and we'd make that sound. It sounded like something from dinosaur times. Boom, big. So
that's their Morse code.
They do. They make the sound.
Mark is lucky that way. Whatever he wants, whatever he imagines he'd like to hear or see, eventually he gets to see.
I did tell my dad things like that. On Betty Hill, I said, someday I'm going to meet her. And I was like 7 years old. He says, how would you know where she lives? I said, I don't know. I'll be shown someday. The same with Ingo. I had a magazine with him upstate. And I said, see this guy? To my father, I said, see this guy on the cover? He goes out of body into the spaceships like I do. And he paints paintings like I do. I'm going to meet him someday because I know him from space. And my dad says, you say these things, but how do you know? I said, I don't know. They guide me. It happened with Uri Geller, too. So it's funny.
That's awesome.
Okay.
That is really
All right.
cool.
He's got to go to bed.
Oh, we'll let you go.
Hey, Mark, it's been a pleasure. Hopefully we'll have the opportunity to speak again sometime. Thank you both for coming on the show with us. It's just a real treat.
God bless you, man.
God bless you.
Yahweh blessings. Thank you so much. It's
Stay
been an
positive.
honor. It's been fun.
Stay positive.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And God bless you guys. I mean, what you do is incredible. You're sharing this with the world. And do me a favor, if you would, Mark. Next time you talk to your friends in space, tell them to stop by and pay me a visit. I'd love to take a quick trip up into the Milky Way real quick and see what's out there. They can drop me back off whenever. And
I will email you. You'll have to email me a few things. Like, I know you don't want to be too not on the air, but I'll email you what you need to send to me that I take with me with the crew, and then I'll give you the words to say. And people on my Facebook and all these other people who are out there who have done these things with me recall and remember, and now they're having some experiences on their own with their meeting our friends and remembering certain things. There's a way to program for remembering, and that's the thing I help to teach people with too. And I will do that for people who ask. And again, you have to cleanse yourself. If I at least get you to the ships around the planet Earth, they're the teaching ships. If a person is a smoker, they'll still get out there. You know, it's not like the higher realm ships. You can't go past certain levels of frequency with certain things in your energy field. And that's why I try to help people detox, cleanse. On our website, we have some things on that detox, or my emails. You detox your body, cleanse the heavy metals. You want to not be an alcoholic and drinking all the time. And don't be smoking and doing lots of drugs or any of that stuff. And cleanse the thoughts. So all this happens, and you can do this to the next levels, beyond the seventh. But at least get you to the fourth, fifth levels of the frequencies around the Earth. And the ships around the Earth, where they are there set up for people to train or learn things out of body. And from there, we can help you with other things. But
I mean, those
at least
are
get you to those ships.
those are still considered the heaven realms.
Heavenly realm ships.
Yeah, they're heavenly realms.
Yeah, they're in the fourth level and up in fifth. And
nice.
I know
Okay.
it's so much.
Beam me up, Scotty. Right on, man. This has been just a real treat, Mark. You both have a wonderful evening. I know it's even later where you're at because you're in New York, so it's almost midnight, and we'll talk again.
Give you some more positron.
Okay.
We take people in England in 78, 6 people remembered. So you got hope. We can do it.
There's hope for you.
We can do it.
Okay.
Nice. Right on. Well, you guys take care. It was great talking to you.
Take care.
God bless you.
Bye-bye.
Ane Vasuparagas. That means blessings and light and love in the infinite and radiant creator.
Oh, thank you so much. Right back at you. And also for our audience, everybody that's had an opportunity to listen to the show, make sure to check out Mark's website, intergalacticmission.com, intergalacticmission.com. Just a ton of awesome pictures on there.
Follow you on Facebook.
Well, they can follow us on Facebook too. There's something there.
Because sometimes there's our site is a little bit corrupted. You might go if you go to the site from Mark's Facebook. What is your Facebook? You just go
Marc Brinkerhoff.
Marc Brinkerhoff on Facebook and become a friend, and then you can get to the website from About Marc on Facebook. I think that might be easier.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Under About. Okay. Have a great evening.
Take care.
You
Hey.
too.
Now you're all charged up. See you out on the ships.
Right on, Mark. You take
God
care.
bless you.
God
Take
bless you. Take care. Bye-bye.